It was going to be two one way, but instead two the other way. Deontay Banks came in and blocked the extra point.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Here comes JT Daniels. He's going to take a shot at the end zone. And what do you know? Bryce Ford Wheaton puts West Virginia an extra point away.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Indiana just a field goal to their credit so far. Penix, take it down. Luke Van Ness, the redshirt freshman.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
What was that play? Schrader faked the handoff, and Brian Brzee dumped it for a loss.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Richardson on 2nd and 9. His first pass attempt of the game, downfield, going for it all to the end zone. And into the hands of Justin Shorter for a Gators touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, good afternoon on this Tuesday, March the 7th. Big 12 men's basketball tournament, the eve before it starts tomorrow with West Virginia, Texas Tech, and then Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Survivors of those two games move on to what would be the quarterfinal round on Thursday. We'll have a lot to get to today. Someone who covers Brigham Young, the voice of Brigham Young, will join us today at 4:15. They have begun their spring drills. Jake Hatch, he is on KSL Radio in Utah, Salt Lake City, sent me a text earlier today saying, hey, have you heard any of the smoke when it comes to the Pac-12 and perhaps the Big 12? I said, well, I mean, everybody's heard smoke or seen smoke or heard or read, maybe have their own opinions or whatever on what might happen. And he was a guy who covers Utah and Brigham Young saying that he feels like the two targets, not so much of the Big 12, not that there might not be discussions, but it could be Arizona, Colorado. Now, that if that's the case or not, Jake will join us today at 3:45. Also, Craig's off the radar, Paul's top five. Six-time major champion Lee Trevino joins us today at 5. Hall of Fame columnist John McClain will join us at 5:30. So here is the front. This is yesterday. This is as yesterday afternoon. Pete Thamel today corrected himself a little bit. He not corrected himself, but yesterday was discussing the Pac-12 and the story he wrote that Colorado would have a special board meeting, Board of Regents, on Wednesday to discuss legal advice on a specific matter, athletics update on Pac-12, the expectation, an update on the Pac-12 deal. Above that middle part of it, he said, an update here, no vote on any matter will emerge from Colorado's executive session with its regents tomorrow, where the Pac-12 will be discussed. Colorado law states that the votes must come in a public session. Here is the agenda of that particular meeting. The agenda item, this is from Reddit College Football, Wednesday, 9 o'clock. And if you look at the bottom, what it specifically mentions, again, legal advice on specific matter, athletics, update on Pac-12. Now, the Pac-12 tournaments are going on. They are about to start in Vegas. So what is said, any closed rooms, any discussion, same thing with the Big 12 in Kansas City. Everyone's up there as the tournament starts tomorrow. And I'm sure there's a lot of discussion among administrators, AD, possibly presidents. Brett Yormark is in Kansas City and others as well.
Yeah, and you would hope for the Pac-12's sake that there's an update coming on the TV deal or there's something. And we heard from ADs a couple weeks ago that they expect to hear something, but there's nothing on the table right now. And, detractors of the, of expansion or conference realignment will say that, there's a lot of misinformation out there. If there is, I do think that George Kliavkoff needs to get in front of that and say, this is misinformation. Here's what's going on. Because I do think that would help his negotiating power at this point, too, at least, or make everybody confident in him. Because the last thing you want people to think is that there's not stability when there is, but it doesn't seem like there is. There's been no real public show of stability from the Pac-12 other than a really poorly timed media release. And it's just so strange. While ultimately I'm still in the camp that believes that they'll get a media deal done for now, and they might even, if it's streaming heavy and they find a streamer to give them more so they can beat the average per year over the Big 12 and they beat the Big 12 and ACC, then okay, then they'll have the third best TV deal, but the distribution's not going to be as good as the other ones. And so you might be making a little bit more money, a couple million more every year. But at the end of the day, are you getting in front of as many millions of eyes? You probably won't be. So I just think that any kind of solution, and every conference except the Big Ten and SEC has to see this in some way, shape, or form. But any type of solution the Pac-12 comes to is temporary.
Yeah, I think that it'll be nice to have some resolution here pretty soon. That's one thing I do think, because, I'm as invested and entertained by a lot of the realignment stuff as anyone, but now, it's started to get, too personal for some people. And I find that to just be, no fun, really, and kind of sad. And I think that, the Big 12 is obviously happy with the direction that it's going, and its fans now, I think, at this point are just trolling the Pac-12 for, the most part. I do think there is a desire to see, hey, let's go grab some teams from them. But I think at this point, Big 12 fans are just enjoying the fact that the shoe's on the other foot after, the feeling of a couple of summers ago. But, yeah, everybody seemingly lost their mind looking for every hint or clue or indication of what could be around the corner. And, on the one hand, you have people who are sold that there's no way in hell the Pac-12 could possibly get a deal on the level of the Big 12 or, more or whatever. I've seen that, and I don't know that that's necessarily always been somebody who's a newspaper writer or whatever, but a varying degree of people. I've seen plenty who absolutely don't believe the Pac-12 will be able to match or get a higher offer, and I've seen other people who are completely confident. Just saw a Colorado beat writer apparently in some chat was like, I'm absolutely, after talking to people, convinced the Pac-12 is going to have a slightly better deal. So, everybody's just saying what they think is going to happen, but who actually really knows what's going to happen? That's the question. George Kliavkoff has to be one of those people, but, certainly they've allowed for the speculation to run rampant. You can point fingers all you want to at Big 12 people or, various media across the entire country who are now covering this story. But this has been something that's gone on now for weeks at this point. And not just the negotiations, which have gone on for months, but the actual speculation part. We're now entering weeks of this, okay, the DVD deal's coming soon. Something's got to give sometime soon. And yet another day has gone by. So it's fascinating, this whole process, and it'll be amazing to see what the end result is, and then, the reaction to all of that, because there will be whatever that number is, whatever that distribution is, whoever wins or whatever on whatever side, there's sure to be a huge reaction given all of the talk and all of the buildup into this. I do have a question. If the Pac-12 as it currently sits were to beat the Big 12, I think that is notable. Is it as notable if they get a slightly better TV deal, but they also do so through adding San Diego State or SMU or some combination? Do you look at that as the exact same argument we've been having about whether the Pac will have a higher – are we talking about with new teams or as is, you think?
Well,
because I do think that's two different arguments.
Well, you asked the question. If they add two teams, how can it be more than if it's what it is now without them?
Well, isn't that part of – the whole thing is you would add teams that would be additive, and wasn't that the whole thing was?
Well, those two teams, despite the markets they're in, add any money to what is the number that whoever is offering them in the first place. To me, it would I don't know how it could be more. To me, it would dilute it a little bit. The one thing about the Big 12, when they added the 4 schools, in the end, they got more money than when they had Texas and Oklahoma. Now, again, it would have been even more, a lot more, had those two stayed. But
right, but why would you even be talking expansion then?
Because of the numbers of teams. Because otherwise, you might have 8 to 10 teams. You don't know how many you're going to have left based on who might leave.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different thing then. Like, I'm talking about if they stay as is, the 12 teams they have right now. And
well, they're not,
though. 10.
The 10.
They're 10 teams. Okay, well, if they stay as is with the 10 they have, and they get a better TV deal than the Big 12, that's one thing. But I do think it's an entirely different thing if you add a couple of teams and then you have a slightly higher TV deal. Will we agree on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think either way that they're not like whatever beating the Big 12 money-wise, it's kind of the same argument about Florida State and Clemson and extra revenue. Like, okay, you're going to get if you got everybody in the ACC to agree to pay the 3 best teams more revenue, you're still only talking about $4 million more at the end of the day, which doesn't close the gap on who you want to close the gap on. If you're talking about the Pac-12 beating the Big 12, you're probably talking about $3-4 million at the end of the day, which again doesn't make the Big 12 look bad. One,
how can they? How can they beat the number of the Big 12 if they add San Diego State and SMU? That would dilute it.
Well, that would but that would be up to the media.
I don't know.
That would be up to the particular media partner.
In my opinion,
though.
it would.
Right. But there's a whole conversation about adding them for a reason because they'd have more inventory, which therefore would get more money in the TV deal. That's the whole point. Well, if it wasn't going to add anything, then why would we even be having the conversation? Why would they even be exploring it?
I don't know.
Right. So the whole point is that
it's just a smoke screen in the first place.
Right. I'm just saying, like, there's a conversation right now that's being had where there are Pac-12 folks who are convinced. And look, the whole thing is like, it's not sniffing the Big Ten or the SEC. So let's just go ahead and throw that out there that, like, all this probably doesn't matter at all in the end. And it doesn't make up any ground whatsoever in the Big Ten and the SEC. But we're in this pillow fight between the Big 12 and the Pac. So let's just keep swinging pillows. But I do think it's a different conversation of the folks who are convinced they'll have a better deal when all is said and done, even if that's $500,000. That's with the current alignment. Or are folks who are convinced of that they will get a slightly better deal, even if that's $100,000, by adding a couple more teams. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do.
But if they add more teams, isn't one of the problems the Pac-12 faces is time slots available to show games?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So what would adding 2 teams do?
Well,
right, but where do you think the whole SMU San Diego State conversation's coming from? It's clearly something, whether they add them or not. I'm just saying there's clearly been talk about expansion, right? Clearly. There has been. Just 3 days ago, Mr. Pac-12 was at Wilner or Canzano talking about 4 teams. So, like, that's why I bring that up. That's not being brought up for no reason whatsoever. That's being brought up as some sort of an addition. Financially, you would think. Time zone, maybe with SMU, getting into Texas. Like, that's all additive. That's not subtracting. You don't seem to agree with that.
I just don't know if it's adding more money overall other than just diluting the number. I just disagree. That's why I don't know about San Diego State and SMU in any way. Is that to replace teams that might be leaving? Because if anybody leaves, it won't matter what they do to replace them, right? Because they've already lost 2 other teams.
Right. No, what I'm talking about is the money that's being generated. If the Pac-12 has a higher TV deal, so we split it up like, Oregon's making $25 million and Oklahoma State's making $26 million, okay? And then this next TV deal that they sign, all of a sudden the Pac is making more money. I do think there's a difference between the 10 schools as they are right now making more money, or are we talking more money from the Pac-12 point of view because they've added a couple teams and that put them over the Big 12 number, which you don't think would be additive, but then again, that's why I'm saying – then what would be the point of the entire song and dance if they're not adding something?
I guess the way I look at it is, will adding SMU and San Diego State be bigger than any of the teams they have left?
I don't think so, but I'm not saying that it is. Okay. That's why I'm asking the question of there's a little bit of a difference between we're so strong, we don't need you, us 10 are better off without you, and you swing a slightly better TV deal versus we don't need you, you suck, we're better than you, and then landing a TV deal after adding a couple of teams like San Diego State and SMU. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and again, what money are we talking about here? Because right now it seems like you're in a you-know-what measuring contest, and if one is 6 inches and the other 6.5,
right?
You're really not going to measure. I mean, it's really not going to matter because, again, you're competing against 80 and 90 million, right? Or 60 and 75.
Okay, those numbers that we see thrown out there about the SEC and the Big Ten, We're talking right now the football money. Because the Big 12 is not just 31.7. It's 31.7 plus college basketball, the college football playoff. The number that the Pac-12 hopes they can get to is 30, 31, 32, whatever million per year for the teams that are left.
Yes.
Because that's what the Big 12
Yeah,
get.
yeah. So my point
But
being,
the 80, 90 million, though, hold on. They're not getting 80 or 90 million for football.
no, but the overall money that we're talking about, again, when you're talking about competing, if you're just trying to catch the Big 12, then that's fine. But ultimately, the others have the same problem of the gap between the revenue of their schools and the other. So if you're the Pac-12, and at the end of this, you say, great, we got $3 million more a year than the Big 12 did. Huzzah! Well, does that get you any closer to the teams that you just lost in USC
there
and
seems
UCLA?
to be a lot of discussion about who's third. And that's a big deal. Like the Big 12 is third. And really, you're right. It's like comparing whatever you want, how many apples you have compared to somebody else. That's why it's so, I think a lot on the chat room, even in the Twitter timeline, people are almost numb to it. So we're looking for an end game. So, Craig, do you think SMU and San Diego State will bring more money to the table per team in the Pac-12? Is that why they're looking at them?
No, I don't. I was just throwing that question out there because I do think they're two different arguments of if you're saying right now, again, that they're going to make more money, are we talking about with the 10 or with 12? That's all the question that I was asking, really, is it because of the 10 that they currently have are worth more, or they needed to go add a couple more teams, therefore the entire speculation about 2 to 4 teams that was being reported by Mr. Trusted Source 3-4 days ago.
Right.
I mean, that was reported by, a prominent, I think it was Canzano, one of the two guys who are always, pointed towards. So I'm just simply saying there's a lot of confidence that they're going to have a higher deal. I'm with you. It's splitting hairs. It's not that big of a deal to me if they have a bigger deal by $500,000 or by $5 or by $5 million or whatever. I'm just simply wondering aloud if that's taken into account for the people who are so confident of them getting that through their current structure or through having to go and add some teams.
Did the 4 new teams joining the Big 12 add money per team to the Big 12 with the new TV deal? Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, and Brigham Young. Brigham Young, Cincinnati, Houston, or UCF?
No.
So then why would San Diego State and SMU?
No, probably not.
Because remember, the 8 remaining schools gave money back so that the 4 incoming teams would be able to have some. So the Texas OU money is helping offset some of that or luring somebody else into the conference.
Right. So then my whole thing was, so then what's the point? What's the point then? What's the point of adding them? So you're having to add them for a reason. They're adding something. Therefore, why you would add them? You're not adding them to make less money. You're not adding them to have fewer this or fewer that. So that's where, on the side of the expansion piece, that's why I'm very curious about that role in adding or staying put, because we've seen both sides of that. And the speculation continues to be on one side that, yeah, it's going to be better. And I'm just wondering aloud, because that's what we do on here, if that's, being said in mind of a bigger conference that's now expanded with a couple teams. But I'm with you. I didn't want SMU in the Big 12. I didn't think that was going to add much. Now, would that be different for the Pac-12 because it's a brand new market and brings them more of the country, so to speak? That's what I'm curious about. I mean, there's a reason they're being talked about, and it's not because they don't add anything.
Mike Bean, strength in numbers. No Cal Matt, North California Matt, adding San Diego, Dallas to the conference footprint. No different than adding what the Big 12 did with the 4 schools, whether or not there's a large television footprint or not, but footprints. Biscuits and gravy responding. SMU does not carry the Dallas footprint. We've discussed that before. Houston does not carry the Houston footprint. We've discussed that before. And TCU doesn't carry the Dallas footprint, but they're valuable. It's kind of all of how you want to do it. So there we are. And so here's the LA Times. Front page story, I believe, of the LA Times newspaper today. This is from J. Brady McCullough. I invited him to come on today's show with the timing of when we had an opening compared to when he was available. Maybe it's going to be tomorrow. This is from the LA Times. Is the Pac-12 really this bad? Why the league has no TV deal without USC and UCLA? Now, some of what is written by J. Brady McCullough is also been things that we've discussed, or The Athletic, quotes from other people's sources, CBS Sports, you name it, ESPN, pretty much almost the same thing, but now there's an article in the LA Times.
Yeah, and this is breaking it down for the fans of the schools out there. Of course, the LA market won't care about the Pac-12 as much once their two schools are gone next year, but there's a lot of people, of other alums that are probably invested in that live in Los Angeles, and here you've got the conference just not making any headway. And, to me, I think if you just ask simple questions like, okay, the Big 12, for a much of as a mess as the Pac-12 thought it was, Brett Yormark went out and got a TV deal in a hurry from the time that he got that job. George Kliavkoff has been on us for a lot longer, and he can't. So what is the difference, and what is the Pac-12 not admitting about itself that is getting in the way of getting this done? Because they should have gotten it done before everyone, because theirs was expiring before everyone, even before the Big Ten. The Big Ten got their big, gigantic, huge deal, and the Pac-12 was still technically before them a little bit, and they still didn't get it done. So why? Well, it started with USC and UCLA, clearly, especially USC, not really wanting to get into it for a while. And then once that happened, they've still had this time to do this.
They
and
did
haven't
not
done anything.
see the Big 12 jumping ahead of in line. No one saw that coming.
No, and
it created, oh my God, and I don't think anyone realized the vacuum it might create of the lack of ability to get games on regular linear TV.
And my point is the Pac-12 should have known, don't wait in line. Like, at once, yeah.
I mean, like you said, though, who saw them jumping ahead of who saw Brett Yormark doing that? And this is exactly why I was asking what I was asking to start the show, and I guess it was confusing, but, the fact is this is another day and it's gone on. And there is a side that will tell you, well, it's fine. This is the regular way. Remember, they take Christmas holiday off. We heard that BS excuse. Oh, well, it's because of this reason. Oh, it's because Oregon and Washington are leaving. Oh, it's because of this. So I'm simply asking the question of, about the expansion side of it is, is SMU and San Diego State what they're needing to cook this recipe up finally, because that's what the ingredients are needed? That's what adds to the flavor, and that's what ultimately bakes the cake? Or is this simply a matter of these are the 10 schools and they're still negotiating? Because if that's the case, then what's the holdup on that side? I'm just trying to figure out what the delay, if there is in fact a delay, which there certainly appears to be, what exactly that's entailing. Is it negotiating the fact that there's going to be a couple more joining you and you're trying to figure out how that works? Is it just simply what it is appears to be, that there really is trouble in TV land and there's not room? Or is it something we're not even thinking of? I'm just at this stage not even trying to dunk on anybody or say, my side won or anything. I'm just sitting here looking at it neutrally and going, okay, what is taking so dadgum long at this point that we're sitting here yet another week's, in hitting the midway point, and we're looking like we're probably going to get to next Monday and still be talking about this exact same thing. And I understand that there's a timeline longer. Like, nobody's saying that, hey, we're going to have something done by March 7th. I'm just simply trying to figure out what is spinning behind the scenes that could be causing this to drag out far longer than anyone expected.
That there's not a number.
Right.
That there's a number that is so low that that's why they can't release it.
Which flies directly in the face of a ton of people, right?
It seems like
it would, yes. And that's my whole point. Then so obviously, speaking confidently doesn't mean you're speaking truthfully. And I don't know, I've just seen a lot of confidence that I'm starting to wonder if it's just built on shaky foundation and it's, there really isn't a life raft coming.
In the end, if the Pac-12 announces a new deal that includes the 10 remaining schools, and whether or not it includes anybody else to that mix, and they're in that $30 million or even upper 20s or early 30s, lower 30s, then they're fine. To me, then they're fine. They move on, whether it's with San Diego State or with SMU. I think that number, what they want to know what the number is what is that number before you add to? And then if you feel good about it, then maybe you add to then also add a couple of, as someone mentioned, whether they carry the markets or not, at least the footprints in Dallas and also San Diego.
Yeah, and I get the footprint piece. I mean, I do understand that. I was just looking at it more from television terms and not so much the like, hey, you can have a Pac-12 convention in Dallas. I wasn't looking at it that way, but that is another way to look at it. And I don't think it's obviously the driving force, but it makes sense. Although, how much ground are you planning to cover, and how are you going to hold on to that ground 5 years from now? I mean, that's the question I would have. Like, what is your long-term vision? Okay, you added Dallas. Okay, let's just say that happened. You added San Diego. What's the plan 5 years from now? You know what I'm saying? Because
and that's why your Mark is trying to look at other alternate revenues. Right. He's already another step, but he was already cut in front of him, right? Now he's working on the next part of revenue flow, whether it's adding and or the basketball part of it with whoever it might be, including Gonzaga. And so I don't know. None of us know the final result here. None of us do. I wish to God, even if it's good news or bad news for anybody, I just want to know the information. Good luck with it.
And ultimately, one of the things that the Big 12 has that the Pac-12 doesn't is, okay, 5 years from now, I mean, this is not 100% sure, but the Big 12 has 12 schools that we want to be together much more surely than the 10 schools in the Pac-12 will still want to be together. Those 12 in the Big 12 have a more vested interest in sticking together than all the schools in the Pac-12 do 5 years from now, especially if there's, the Big Ten gets back in the water, like he said, 5 years and say, we're going to expand and this and that. The Big 12 has a better chance of sticking together so they can think about a second TV deal about, okay, what happens in 5 years after the playoff revenue and this? What can we start planning? How are other revenue streams and this and that? As where the Pac-12 just can't even get to this point because what they don't know is that 3 years into this, if Oregon and Washington are getting low numbers because they're on streaming mostly, they're going to be like, well, I mean, we're not even going to come to the table next time.
The whole thing is if they get a number and it seems to be satisfactory, will everybody sign a grant of rights?
Well, and that's why I think it's an interesting topic. And I know people hear this expansion at this point and they're like, just give us the result. But the reason why the result's fascinating, folks, is because it sets up the entire rest of the future of college football. Like, we already know there's two breaking away, basically. There's going to be two that are on their own land, their own planes, all by themselves with big old mansions. And then there's a couple that are just trying to simply survive and keep breathing the same air, right? That's basically where we're headed. And there's probably not room for everybody that's got a room right now. And so that's why I'm just curious about the long-term strategy of, like, okay, you got a TV deal done now. But then, all right, I think we know Brett Yormark's sort of overall grand vision. They plan on the Big 12 being the 3, seed as far as the conference totem pole goes. And yes, a very large gap above it and number 1 and number 2. And so for the people who are Big 10 fans or SEC fans, they're just writing off like it doesn't matter anyways. Like, it does, not to you, but it still does, because they're not just going to vanish. The schools aren't just going to vanish entirely and all of a sudden it's just a two-person world, as much as it may be seeming like it's headed towards that direction. So I'm just like thinking out loud of, we know Yormark's vision. They went and they grabbed the 4 schools that they did. Bowlesby did that. And since he's come on, he's talked openly about Gonzaga or flirting with the Pac-12 schools or flirting with the West Coast. And now we know the Pac-12's, potentially looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 schools, and we know a couple of who those schools might be, and we kind of figure who a couple of the others are as well. And I'm just wondering if they had that same long-term confidence and grand vision and plan of, pivoting and being a basketball conference, or feeling like they can continue to compete. Because right now, this result that we've all been waiting on and talking about, it seems like it's a very temporary one. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel it's as temporary with the Big 12. Not that they're safe and they're going to make gazillions of dollars, but it just seems like there's a more intact long-term vision there, as opposed to this one where it's like, let's just survive for another day, and then about the year from now, like, forget about that. We'll get there when the time comes. And that's why this TV deal, taking as long as it is that much more concerning.
And also the grant of rights.
Yes,
will anyone, even if the Pac-12 has a number, are they going to sign? Will all 10 teams sign a grant of rights? Then that could delay it again. Nope, we're not doing it. Okay, then what happens? Like, what if a school or 3 or 4 say, we're not signing that? What do?
Yeah, because, again, you could beat the overall number, but if your distribution is not what everybody else's is, that's another thing. Are you really considering, okay, yes, the Big 12 makes 32 per year, and we're going to make 36. Great. Beat them. Ha-ha, losers. But the Big 12 is on networks, and you're on streaming.
If it is,
If that's the
or
case,
most of it on streaming.
Right. If that's more, and you have less actual over-the-air TV time, then 5 years from now, has your exposure dropped a level? And part of the deal you're going to have to make is it's not like you can just put the lower-end games and the non-conference games on streaming. I mean, obviously, the broadcast, you're going to push as much as you can, but everybody has to get their fair share. But when you start throwing some marquee games on streaming that lose 3 million viewers because they went to that spot, how do those schools that lost the 3 million viewers they would have had feel? And when that happens once a year over 5 years, I mean, you get to the point of, okay, this was a marriage of convenience and now it's over.
The chat room, there's so many great comments. There's some going back and forth. Cody Gelbreth, interesting thought of the old Arizona-Texas Tech border conference rivalry returning. Yeah, I mean, Arizona and Arizona State, I'm just using those two schools. Colorado are closer to Lubbock than probably a lot of the teams in the Big 12. I don't know the exact numbers. Jason Monroe, the Big Ten was more interested in Notre Dame. Well, now Notre Dame wants to stay independent. Washington and Oregon are being patient. Well, they're trying to be. You would think to see what happens, and they may not get the answer they want or the call. Simon 2077, if Oregon gets hosed, I wouldn't mind the Big 12 inviting both Oregon schools as a carrot to show we are sincere. They have to be interested too. Now, if the Pac-12 doesn't get to a certain point, then schools that might not be interested in the Big 12 now, maybe some of them, 1 or 4 or how many, become interested because they want to continue to play at a high level of college football unless the Pac-12 just survives, and they do, and that's good if they do. Jason, the Big Ten needs more schools on the West Coast. UCLA and USC's closest opponent, we know this, 1,300 miles in Lincoln, Nebraska. But do USC and UCLA want more schools on the West Coast?
I wouldn't. I mean, I understand why for like soccer or, tennis or something like that. But, I mean, I'm looking at like just the Baylor schedule on a regular basis, and they're traveling all over the place. They got women's golfs in Mexico and like tennis is in Wisconsin. It's like they don't seem to be worried too much about travel there. And, I understand that there's, a lot of that will add up over time, but I don't think that you trade the travel headaches, whatever those might be. And if you're flying like a private jet everywhere, or, you got more comfortable digs, and that's not as bad as us thinking, oh, it's a 4-hour flight from LA to wherever and you're on commercial. Like, that's a much different ball game. I think the travel accommodations will be better because the money will be better. And I also think if you're UCLA and USC, you have such a prime advantage over the entire half of the country in which you reside. Why in the world would you trade that for an hour less to play a baseball game on a Thursday night? You know what I mean?
I'll bring this up. A&M thought that they had a little bit of an advantage. How long did that last? 10 years?
Yeah.
It did last 10 years. Eventually,
USC and UCLA don't have an Oklahoma and a Texas that are hanging back.
Yeah, and
if you were USC and UCLA, would you want Washington and Oregon to be a part of your conference moving forward?
Not unless I had to. And, A&M also, I don't know, I mean, sure they knew this, but they were not probably foolish enough to think that even though they did really good in that Johnny Manziel year, that all of a sudden they were just going to knock Alabama off their perch and just take control of that. Based on their history, A&M's does less with more than most. So, yeah, I think that's a slightly different situation. The other thing is, when we had Pat Crakes on, was last week, I think it's more likely that we go to football-only conferences and then, like long-term, and then non-revenue sports become much more regional because the money will continue to push to the big television and multimedia sports, and the non-revenue sports will still be there, and they'll still be subsidized by that. But in order to maximize that subsidization, they'll have to, look, USC might be in a golf conference with Cal Poly just because that's how it is. And, football and men's basketball will live in a different world, and everybody else will live in the conferences.
Yeah, and there's some people who believe that it'll be some of the case in football as well. There will be a breakaway, right? That's been long talked about and at least rumored about, and that's why I asked like the bigger, grander questions from the very beginning about the Pac-12 and its intentions and what this TV deal could actually be. It's not that it's the Big 12 is going to make more, or, the Pac-12 is going to make more. It's being realistic. It's like, okay, if they were to accomplish this, all right, then how do they respond next? Because I think we all understand there's not a stop sign upcoming. There's far from it. It's all green lights. I mean, we've seen the rules and the way that those are going. We've seen the TV contracts and the ways that those are going. We've seen the consolidation. What did Pat Craig say like 1,000,000 times? What word did he say 1,000,000 times? We were talking about the Pac-12. And no matter what result there is, he kept using the word consolidation because this ain't over. Because there's some grander picture, whether it's the rumored picture of years ago that's finally coming to fruition of the 2 mega conferences or super conferences or what have you, although there's plenty of people believe that there's no way you would just cast aside half the country's universities, which I also believe, like, it's not going to be like 2 leagues and then nobody else. I don't foresee that necessarily. But something's not quite over. And that's why I'm talking about the Pac-12 TV deal in the way that I am, because if you're expanding, all right, then what's your long-term play after that? If you're not, then what's your play after that? And the same for the Big 12, because we know we're redoing this in the next 5 years anyways. All these TV deals are rolling back up, including what did Brett Yormark also do? What did the Big 10 also do? Not so much Brett Yormark, but the Big 10 tried to cut the SEC off at the knees and get another TV deal right after signing this new one before they get another one. Big 12 also cut back in line to where they're doing that. So I'm just trying to see the puzzle pieces and the chess moves while they're happening to whatever bigger picture we're headed towards in the next 5 to 10 years.
Will be one hell of whoever does the documentary, from the Texas-Oklahoma SEC day to USC, UCLA, to everything since that time, from the Big 12 adding to the Pac-12, trying to find their figures, trying to get their numbers in a proposal that will work, and then even what might happen with the Big 12 going forward with Brett Yormark. Chris Nelson, I'll answer this for you. We have to break after this. We have a guest who covers really the state of Utah from KSL Radio in Salt Lake City on what's being said out there. Chris Nelson, should the Big 12 invite Washington and Oregon but not require them to sign grant of rights? 2 things. Washington and Oregon have to be interested too, all right? And number 2, hell no. You cannot do that. You cannot do unequal revenue sharing. For the schools that have survived somehow all of the bumps, bruises, battering of the Big 12, those 8 schools and the new 4, they don't want to go through something where somebody else feels like they're better than them again, or at least gets more. No. If Oregon and Washington at some point end up in the Big 12, it cannot be because they don't sign a grant of rights, and it cannot be because you give them more money. Who are they? I mean, really, I'd say that about anybody that was coming in. About the only school you might do that, and we asked Mac Rose this last week, it would have to take extreme, unique circumstances, might be Notre Dame. And even then, I don't think everyone wants to have to put up with that unless that would be the mega dose where you are now playing with all the 2 big boy conferences.
Yeah, unequal revenue sharing is basically poison in the well, and those
Absolutely.
2 brands aren't bigger from the standpoint of the Oklahoma States, the Texas Techs, the K-States, whoever. I mean, I understand like TV ratings might be higher or whatever, but they're not so much bigger that they deserve unequal revenue sharing with those schools. I mean, not even close.
How many national football?
Would I love them to be a part of the Big 12?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but not for that reason.
Well, Washington can answer yes in a national football title.
Yeah.
But Oregon cannot, just like most of the rest of the Big 12 right now. So if you're the rest of the Big 12 and you're like, hey, Oregon, please join us, and you're like, oh, no, we need more money, and be like, hey, do you have more national championships than Kansas State or Kansas or Baylor or TCU or, hold on, I can keep going to the rest of the conference. No, they don't. So they don't have any kind of more prestige that would get that. And Washington's is so long ago that probably not even in the discussion either.
To the point of the question, I don't think that they'd have any interest anyways.
Yeah,
so,
I don't either.
It wouldn't even
unless
come
they
up.
look up after the smoke clears and there are no other options, and even then I'm sure they could try to figure something out. When we come back, Jake Hatch, he covers the state of Utah. He's in Salt Lake City, KSL. He's also someone that has a podcast on Brigham Young. Greg Werble will join us at 4:15. He's the voice of BYU. They've started spring drills. We'll have him today. And the great Lee Trevino, 6-time major champion, will join us today at 5 o'clock and more. Thanks for those of you on the chat room, in the chat room. Like us if you don't mind. Subscribe if you haven't. Spread the word. Tell a friend. And this is 365 Sports.
During Ram Truck Month, shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels. Ram trucks have all the quality for work or play, with impressive towing capabilities, heavy-duty payload capacity, smooth ride, and a luxury feel interior design. If you're looking for a truck that can do it all, come see the possibilities of a Ram truck. And if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
They call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will hear from Greg Wrubell, voice of Brigham Young. He'll join us here in the next segment. Big 12 men's basketball tournament starts tomorrow. 2 games that are not play-in games. These are the teams that have to play an extra game to continue on, and all of these teams have some work to do, although it appears West Virginia is in. Texas Tech and Oklahoma have work to do. Oklahoma State can possibly play themselves in, but all 4, and especially Tech and Oklahoma, most likely need to win the tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. And this is my question. Is there anybody in the Big 12, based on what we saw this past weekend, that you don't think can win the tournament? Isn't everybody dangerous? Sure, you have Kansas and Texas and K-State, Baylor, Iowa State beat Baylor twice. Is there any TCU's anybody you think that there's no way they can win the tournament?
No. Really, honestly, if any team got hot, I do think it would be a mountain to climb for Tech, West Virginia, or Oklahoma to do it. But of the top, especially of the top 6 teams, I mean, can any of those teams win 3 games in a row? Yeah. Can any of those teams win 3 games in a row against the teams this league? We've seen them all do it.
Yeah, we've all seen them lose to those two. Yeah.
They haven't had to do it 3 actual days in a row within, 24 hours or less of each other. But yeah, I think they can absolutely do it. I mean, it's weird because it may or may not help you. It depends on what everybody else does. Baylor, I know that Scott doesn't want to do this, but he really needs to kind of hope that his brother Jerome Tang loses a game in that deal so they can stay on the 2 line and they can go to the 3. Although I don't know between 2 and 3, honestly, if this league is good, if you're a 2 or a 3 seed, other than catching a bad matchup. Like, I don't know if it's really that much of a difference in where you're going to go and who you're going to play. Because if you are the best league, then most of the time it probably doesn't matter. And it's just about the matchups that you draw. So I'd rather be a 2 seed than a 3 seed. But if you're good, you're good, right? So,
yeah, I mean, you asked the question, can anybody win it? Yeah, I mean, they can. But I'm not buying any of the 4 play-in teams. I don't have confidence in Oklahoma State or Texas Tech or Oklahoma or West Virginia to go run this table. I mean, I think it's one thing to win a couple of games. I think it's entirely something different to, let's say, for example, if you're West Virginia, beat Texas Tech, and then you go beat Kansas, and then you go beat the winner of Baylor, Iowa State, and then you go beat probably Texas or Kansas. I know I'm not buying that any of those teams.
Well, if they get past that second game, then they could beat anybody, right? Although
sure,
you're
right.
Yeah.
Beat anybody, on the same level, sure. I mean, the question is, can they do it? Like I said, then yeah, certainly any team can do it, but am I banking on it, or am I thinking that it's all that likely? Absolutely not for those 4. It's kind of the way I look at it if, you view it from the standpoint of this expanded playoff, right? And everybody's excited about the playoff, and some certainly aren't either. But it really was like a great trick in so many ways by Greg Sankey and others, the way that they orchestrated this thing to where now, like, oh, hey, great, the Big 12 can have 3 teams maybe get in the playoff on a good year. But how many of those teams are going to be able to go win, 4 games against, premier top 10 teams week after week after week? Like, you might win 1 or 2 of those. TCU beats Michigan, but then going and playing Georgia is a whole nother animal. Now adding 2 more games into that of those same types of calibers of teams, or at least in that same vicinity, and that's a tough task. So, I think those 4 teams could win 1 or 2. But then game 3, game 4, I'm like, I don't know about that.
Well, it seemed like the odds would decrease, and yet again, they increase. If you win and get to that quarterfinal round, then somehow you beat one of the top 4 seeds, hey, then everything is kind of like a team early in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, an 11 seed beats a 5 or 12 beats a 5, or whatever it is. It opens the door up because a lot of times the other guys that are high seeds are losing too.
Well, and you wonder who's as motivated or who can help themselves. I think it's probably unfortunate for everybody that Kansas has an opportunity to get the number 1 overall seed and get to pick where they go, which would be playing, in the Sweet 16 in Kansas City, right back where they are right now in a home series, because so now it behooves them to win the league so they can get that number 1 overall seed over Alabama. Although the argument can be made that they should have it over Alabama anyway, because they were in a better league, pound for pound, and one of the worst teams in. I don't know how this works out on the math of it all, but one of the worst teams in the Big 12 throttled Alabama at their place by 25, and that's a team that Kansas beat twice. So
yeah, and Baylor's opened it up against a team that's beaten them by double digits twice to open the conference, to end the conference, and without one of their better players last weekend. So there's obviously maybe a matchup thing there. Just sometimes you play a team 3 times, maybe that does change just a little bit. Texas will await the winner of the Oklahoma State game. Last time they played Oklahoma, that thing went down to the wire, went into overtime. Oklahoma State, I think, may have gotten them once as well. You just don't know. You really don't know. But Texas Tech, obviously, with the distraction, with the Mark Adams on suspension, not sure if that inspires him like it did Texas, because it did with Rodney Terry, and Texas is a much higher-ranked team, and also Rodney Terry with a lot of experience before coaching.
Yeah,
so,
and difference being, though, the actions that led to Beard's departure, not only are they different, which is stating the obvious, but they weren't directed towards the actual team.
Yeah.
Whereas Mark Adams was dealing with players or whatever the case may be with that. I think that's potentially more apt to spoil the bunch, rather than motivate. But who knows? Maybe it does rally them. I mean, that's entirely possible, and they're able to go on a run. But yeah, I would think that it's slightly different. And man, just what a terrible timing. I feel for Texas Tech seniors who came back and who were playing all throughout this year, and clearly just something. It's like Chris Level said yesterday. Like, winning's what's different. Like, they're not winning all the time, so naturally things just seem worse or not as fun or less energetic or just, whatever the case may be. But I don't know, guys. Like, even though they were losing more often, it's still just something felt off about the whole thing. Yeah. And it wasn't just that they were losing more. It's just there was all the rumors behind the scenes and all of that. And so, like, I don't know about y'all, but when I saw that story pop, I didn't even know what the subject matter was. I just was like, yep. That doesn't surprise me at all that he's been suspended.
I didn't even know what it was for. You're right.
No, yeah. I wasn't even surprised he was suspended. I didn't know what the reasoning was. I had no idea, but I was like, yeah, that seems about right. Yeah. Like, that's how much that was coming down the pipeline. So, yeah, I'll be very curious to see how they perform, with the change, and might turn into one hell of a story, or might just, end the inevitable.
All right, I want to say this for a couple of you in the chat room. We've seen this throughout the last couple of years about AAU, who's ranked higher academically, what is USA News Today, whatever. Georgia won the national title. I have no idea where they are ranked academically, and nor do I care. But that's kind of a default argument about, well, Utah or Brigham Young or Cincinnati or whatever. We always end up getting to that point when there's arguments about who should be in what conference. Yes, some conferences have amazing depth when it comes to wherever they're ranked academically. But I just have to tell you, you can do whatever you want. It's your chat room as much as it is ours. But I just think that takes away from anything, because Georgia beat the hell out of TCU, and I don't care who of those two schools academically was ranked higher, because it didn't matter on the scoreboard.
I think the context depends. Is it just flaunting to dunk on people, or is it giving it as a reason why there should be conference realignment?
Well, look, the upper echelon of the Pac-12 is fantastic, and the lower echelon of the Big 12 sucks.
I mean, if it's just...
who cares?
I mean, if it's just to say, like, our academics are better, well, clearly, duh. I mean, and
yeah, we know that.
So, cool, but this is a college football show more than anything, so, yeah.
Academics are better than Pac-12 just because of Stanford. The academics are in the Pac-12 than the SEC just because of Stanford. The academics are better in the Pac-12 than the ACC just because of Stanford. That's I mean, you could take every other school, every other school, take their dumbest kids and put them, weigh it down, right? And Stanford's still going to beat everybody else. So that's not really important. It's important to the Big Ten. It was important to the Pac-12. It didn't mean...
And still may be. That's why perhaps they're not going to ever change.
But it doesn't mean a hill of beans to the Big 12. And it doesn't mean a hill of beans right now to the SEC or the ACC.
Even if you have schools that are highly ranked.
Some of those schools are in, some of those schools are not.
We just gave it too much time. And I'm the one that brought it up, so it's my fault. All right, when we come back, Greg Rubel covers Brigham Young, voice of BYU Athletics, next on 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Went by there today. Ashley was there and got a box of cigars, a Maliva. Very high-end Churchill, very nice cigar. And they have a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Oliva's one of the brands. Aston's one of the brands. Patron, Cohiba, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, on and on and on. They have CBD products, including Vita Dreams. It's a gummy, and you could take one or bite half of one, or you kind of get to know what works for you. If you need to go to sleep peacefully and not toss and turn, that can help you get an extra 30 minutes to an hour of sleep every night, or whenever you feel like you have a lot in your mind and you just want to make sure you fall asleep. And they have the accessories for anyone that smokes cigars, including the humidor to put the cigars in, the cutters to cut them, and the torch lighters to light them. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans, Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol in the Town West Shopping Center just off Valley Mills in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He is the voice of BYU Athletics. Greg Wrubell joins us on 365 Sports. And, of course, we've had a very healthy conversation about what may be next. What is the holdup? When will something come down? Anything Pac-12? Brigham Young, by the way, as I said earlier, also started spring drills, and that's why we asked Greg to come on the show. And we'll get some other information from him and opinions, too. Greg, thanks for your time. So is the Keaton Slovis story the biggest story at BYU spring camp?
Yeah, I think so. Losing Jaron Hall to the next level. Jaron was at the NFL Combine this past week. In fact, there were 3 BYU players at the Combine. One who really made waves, offensive lineman Blake Freeland, broke a bunch of records for O-linemen. But Blake Freeland, Jaron Hall, and Puka Nacua, that's an O-lineman, a quarterback, and a wide receiver were all at the Combine this past week. And they are among the shoes BYU has to fill on offense, and Keaton Slovis is looked to fill the cleats of Jaron Hall. And Keaton is a guy with a lot of P5 reps. a long track record, and BYU's hoping to kind of resurrect his numbers from previous seasons, excepting last season at Pitt. Last year was not a good year for him, but I think the BYU coaches are fairly convinced that was more of a function of the offense and the style of offense where they had him playing and how they had him taking snaps as opposed to what they'll have him do at BYU. So I think Keaton Slovis, being a big-name transfer and a guy that a lot of teams wanted, guys. When he hit the portal, there were a lot of high-level teams wanting his services. BYU got his services, and now they will be riding him into the Big 12. I think, looking back, guys, the hope was that Jaron Hall would be the first Big 12 quarterback for BYU, but he jumped to the next level, and so they didn't want to really start from scratch with a younger player or even a JUCO. Keaton Slovis gives them a nice leg up on that position heading into the P5.
Do they they normally do have their, you do have to deal with mission trips and everything. I know, Greg, but they normally have a pretty steady, this guy leaves, this guy's ready. But was there just too much of a gap between Jaron Hall and the next wave?
Yeah, Jacob Conover was the next guy, but even before last year's bowl game, he hit the portal and went back home to Arizona. Will be at Arizona State, and Conover was a pretty high recruit himself. But the way it is these days, guys, the long range plans rarely come to fruition. It's so much a reaction to who wants the greener pastures. You've got to hit the portal, and you've got to have something ready to go. Back in the day, I'll say my day, when I was a student at BYU and even prior to me and through my early days as a broadcaster at BYU, you generally saw quarterbacks sit for a couple years and then play for a couple years. And that was kind of the rotation. With all the BYU quarterbacking greats, they'd watch for a couple of years and then get a couple of years as a starter, maybe 3 if they're lucky. That's not the way it is anymore.
Greg, what have been some of the early returns on the change at defensive coordinator with Jay Hill coming in, just the idea of pivoting after, obviously feeling like the defense wasn't up to snuff? Kalani Sitake makes the change, and kind of how has that all sort of been over the last couple of months, and obviously about to learn a lot more as they hit the field?
Yeah, that's the other big storyline. You mentioned Keaton Slovis. I would also add that the O-line is another major talking point. The Cougs lost 5 of their top 8 offensive linemen from last season. That is something they have that needs to be addressed. But then the entire defense becomes the story. And last year's defensive numbers just were not good enough. They were 121st in third down defense. They were 113th in first down defense. They were not getting takeaways. They were 117th in turnovers gained. They were not getting tackles for loss, 129th there. They were not getting sacks, 129th there. It was just not a playmaking defense. They were not good in the red zone, 101st there. So essentially you're looking for a playmaking defense to emerge from Jay Hill and his new leadership as the D coordinator. And although it was only the FCS level, it was high-level FCS play. Jay Hill had a great thing going at Weber State, and they hung their hat on defense. Last year's defense was 5th in third downs. Last year's defense was 13th in first downs allowed. Last year's defense was aggressive in takeaways, top 25, 21st in turnovers gained. They were a great scoring defense, 12th nationally. So even at the FCS level, you can draw some conclusions about how Jay Hill coaches defense, and they've been a great defense at Weber State. And they took one of their best players to BYU. Eddie Heckert is an all-American JUCO corner, and he will look to show up the secondary for BYU. But I think it has to happen up front, guys. There was just not enough time spent in the opposing backfield. I mentioned the tackles for loss and sacks numbers. More plays have to be made by this defense to bring them closer to the really solid offensive numbers BYU's turned in. The offense really wasn't the issue and hasn't been the issue for a while. The defensive numbers have to get better and a lot better. You mentioned the offensive line, and you mentioned that Weber State's bringing somebody along with what you said at the cornerback position. The Carrington brothers are now at Baylor. Mateos and Grimes and even Aranda with this great relationship with Kalani Sitake. Is Brigham Young kind of like, okay, that's enough. You've taken enough players and enough coaches from BYU? Yeah, maybe it's good they're not playing this year in BYU's first Big 12 schedule. I don't know if there are any hard feelings there, but it is interesting that Coach Grimes, Coach Mateos, and now the Barrington brothers go to Waco, and before that, Caleb Lohner on the hardwoods. You could also add. So there are some funny connections that way between BYU and Baylor in the Big 12. And it is interesting that in the first Big 12 schedule, Baylor is a team that BYU skips. And maybe that's okay, too, because they did play each of the last 2 years. And so there was some familiarity already there. Nice to see some other teams in the Big 12. But that is a unique storyline. And believe me, Baylor got two really good offensive linemen. Clark's been playing longer, but Campbell, the younger brother, may be even better than Big Bro. And I think that was a tough loss for BYU.
Nice kids, too. I did sit-down interviews with both of them a couple weeks ago, Greg, here in the studio. And I think those are up, by the way, for our listeners on SicEm365.com in the premium section right now. But what hit BYU harder? Graduation guys going to the NFL like Jared Hall, Puka Nacua, Freeland, the offensive lineman who's really showing out well lately, or was it the portal?
Maybe sixes, because I think you could argue just with the guys we just mentioned, they were kind of equally hard hit. Of course, the portal is less expected. I think graduation, or if not even graduation, guys who've been here 4 or 5 years, and with the COVID year maybe available to them, you kind of expect them to go. But I think that there was some thought that maybe they could have someone like a Jaron Hall leading BYU into the Big 12. They were ready for it, but let's remember that Nacua and Freeland and Hall all had eligibility left remaining at BYU had they chosen to play one more year and get BYU into the Big 12. I think there was some hope too that maybe there would be an appeal to those players of playing a P5 schedule, and maybe even have that help them boost their portfolio for the next level. But that said, they're taking their chance now, and I think all showed pretty well in the opportunities they had both at the Senior Bowl and at Combine.
Greg, you mentioned no Baylor on the upcoming Big 12 schedule. I think everybody did the same thing, like who's in, who's out as far as the teams that obviously you're going to play and then the ones you'll miss out on. But I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty healthy draw for the Cougars. I mean, you're going to see Texas down in Austin, going to host Oklahoma. I think that that first part of the Big 12 schedule, or actually prior to that, playing Arkansas on the road, then playing Kansas on the road, Cincinnati, TCU, Texas. I mean, I know they played great schedules, but what's the excitement level and just what's kind of the initial returns, initial opinions on what's ahead of them in 2023?
Well, I think you could ask any BYU fan, and regardless of how this first schedule came out, it was going to be the best schedule ever for BYU because it was finally a P5 schedule. It was a Big 12 schedule. However, the names ended up on the slate. But yeah, you start with 2 games. You're going to win at home. You'd think Sam Houston and new FBS, and then Southern Utah and FCS. But then it's those back-to-back games. 2 letters of difference between Arkansas and Kansas, but they'll be on the road for both of those in Fayetteville and in Lawrence. And that game, September 23rd, that's the red letter day, right? That's the first ever game that BYU will play as a Big 12 member against a Big 12 member. BYU and KU and Lawrence, so looking forward to that. You already mentioned how BYU goes to Austin. They've had good success against the Longhorns. In fact, you look at the departing teams, Texas and Oklahoma, and I think BYU's 4-1 against those 2 teams all time. They'll have Texas on the road and OU in Provo, and bringing OU into Provo in mid-November. Who knows what the weather will be like in the mountains in mid-November? So let's see how the Sooners react to that. That'll be an interesting game, no doubt. But I look at this first schedule, guys, and I think there are a few goals you'd have in mind. I think the first goal is get to a bowl game. Can you get to a bowl game with this schedule? The next one is can you get a winning record with this schedule? And then maybe beyond that is can you possibly be in contention in your first year in this league when November rolls around? That might be a big ask in year one. But I think those might be, 3 nice, benchmarks to keep in mind as this season goes along for BYU.
Well, and Brigham Young gets to bring Taysom Hill back for Texas, right?
That is in the contract.
They get to have him in. With all due respect to Slovis, Taysom Hill gets to play in that game against the Horns.
Who is the quarterback?
It's a special rider that they've worked out. It's unique, but
it's the COVID year. Yeah, it's the COVID waiver. Yeah.
Max Hall that beat Oklahoma, though.
What's that?
Who was the quarterback? Was it Max Hall that beat Oklahoma?
John Walsh beat him back in the 90s, and then Max Hall in 2009 in Arlington.
Yeah, that's what like Oklahoma and Texas both got their dose of it.
Yeah,
pretty.
It's not as if Brigham Young hasn't had a bunch of really elite quarterbacks along the way. Hey, we had Jake Hatch on earlier, and Greg, he told me you got him into the business like 13 years ago and loves you and appreciates what you did in getting him involved. We were asking this question, as you know. The Pac-12 is still sitting right now with a little bit of the unknown. And if things work out, they work out, whatever happens. What is the thought process in Provo if, in fact, it doesn't work out and the possibility that has to mean Utah has to be interested of Utah in the Big 12 in the future?
Well, I think BYU's already grown accustomed now to being apart from Utah, and the rivalry games get played less frequently now, and it's more of a hiatus than it is a regular thing. And so I think a lot of Cougar Nation's kind of grown accustomed to the two sides having parted ways. If they were to come back together in a conference setting, I'm sure that there's a large segment of the population that would embrace having Utah again as a conference rival. But I think it really does come down to what does George Kliavkoff hand the president here and the board of trustees in terms of a new deal, and how appealing is it, how palatable is it to those teams. I think there's some sense that a deal that doesn't please everybody might mean the quote unquote end of the Pac-12 as we know it. In which case, I think Brett Yormark and the Big 12 is ready to if not exactly pounce, make appropriate moves. But I'm just genuinely curious. I want to see what kind of deal gets placed in front of those Pac-12 leaders to see just how happy they might be or not be with it. I think ultimately BYU's kind of just pleased with its own circumstance. I think they feel they've entered a strong conference with a great future, and whoever's a part of that future, I think is something BYU will accept gladly no matter which way it drops.
Well, biscuits and gravy on our chat room. I'll share this with you, Greg, and we appreciate your time always. I literally had people walk up to me at a BYU game. They were in Provo. She was in Provo. Grab my arm and say, "We are so happy to be a part of the Big 12." And of course, she welcomed her to the Big 12, and then BYU won that game, dramatic game in double overtime. But that kind of seems like that's been the reaction from everybody across the board from Provo.
Well, it was a long grind, guys. 12 years of independence. It was a tough road, and there was a lot of kind of bravery to go it alone for those 12 years. When BYU lost its conference colleague in Utah to a P5 conference, and a year later TCU was gone to its own P5 setting in the Big 12. The Cougars had to forge a path. And did so, I think, with great success, all things considered, during the Bronco Mendenhall era and now the Kalani Sitake era. So they weren't 12 easy years, but they really did prepare BYU for membership in the Big 12. And now that BYU is there, Cougar Nation could not be more excited. To see those names on the schedule, to know of the venues that BYU fans will soon be visiting, to welcome in fans from schools who've never been to Provo before. And I do hope that all the fans have experiences similar to the Baylor fan you mentioned when they come to LaVell Edwards Stadium, because I think BYU fans are genuinely and wholeheartedly happy to have new conference colleagues and couldn't be more thrilled than to be a part of the Big 12. There's a lot of like-mindedness and cultural good fits around the Big 12. I think by the same token, there are a lot of fans in Cougar Nation around the country who haven't gotten to see BYU play as much as they would like because the Cougars don't come to their neck of the woods that often. But now they will come to these new cities and new venues and new places, especially in the Midwest and the Southwest. And that's another great thing about it, too. And I think you and others will see just how well BYU draws when they go to these new cities that may not seem like a natural draw for a BYU, but the Cougars will bring those fans out. If they're close, even if they're not so close, they'll get to that city and get to that town and get to that stadium to watch their guys play.
Greg, thank you. As always, look forward to it down the road. We're not far away, and you've been great to be a part of our show whenever we've asked. We appreciate your time.
I'm sure we'll have more conversations. Look forward to them, and thanks as always, guys.
Absolutely. We do, too. The voice of BYU with us on 365 Sports. We appreciate the time, and you kind of heard that when I asked about the future. And, hey, we kind of like what we are, but if, in fact, that was to happen, then you move on from there. By the way, retired stockbroker, back, Said, hey, I've been out. Maybe he got sick or something. He's back. I had some health issues, but I'm back. So retired stockbroker who's always very, very helpful when it comes to the Super Chat lead. Appreciate you being back with us on 365 Sports. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak's off the radar right around the corner. Lee Trevino, he'll join us today. Just out off the phone with him. He'll join us at 5 o'clock today. Plus John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist. I'm proud and very fortunate that he is. He has taken care of my dental work after perhaps I didn't do it enough. He has been fantastic. He's a truth-serum guy. Hey, this needs to be done, or this is what happens next. You think this is going to take some time? Wait until you don't take care of this, and then you don't want to know the other alternate whatever is going to happen. And that included with me having a couple of front teeth, not the two front teeth, but to my right, a couple of them that were not healthy. Had to get them pulled. He's the one that designed the process, or he's the one that came up with the process, and then eventually is the one that put in the two crowns. Man, it's fantastic. I was always like, things getting stuck. Well, now it's fixed. Now I've got some other things to work on as well, and I will, because Dr. Steve Childress is fantastic at what he does. Not just for me, but for you. If you're looking for a new dentist, or you're looking for someone that you need to go to, and perhaps you have not been taking care of your dental work, Dr. Steve Childress is phenomenal. So is his staff. From those who set up the appointment, those who remind you about the appointment, and also the hygienists, the techs, the specialists, and other dentists, phenomenal. Robinson, Texas, Stonewood Dental. My dentist, Steve Childress.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday a full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome into 365 Sports. Welcome back to some of you as well. Time for a little Off the Radar. We do this Tuesday, Thursday at around 4:45. Actually early for maybe the first time ever today, as a matter of fact. But that's fine because there's a lot to get to. And for those that maybe just tuning in for the first time, just a segment here, a grab bag, if you will, of just various stories around sports, many of which we would otherwise not really talk much about or get into all that much. But I want to start off with where the big news is today, and that's in the NFL, where there have been a couple of big decisions made as far as some quarterbacks go. And that includes both Daniel Jones of the New York Giants and Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll start with the better player, bigger star, and that is Lamar Jackson. The Baltimore Ravens deciding to place the franchise tag on Lamar earlier today, as he is now off the market as far as a potential free agent with that franchise tag. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt, a lot of rumors, a lot of this and that over, oh my gosh, could Lamar end up with the Dolphins, or could Lamar end up here or there? And, more often than not in the NFL, guys pretty much stay put where they are, especially somebody his age, his caliber. The idea of him moving on is kind of hard to wrap your head around. But this was, the long-expected move on the part of the Ravens, as the trade deadline has now come and gone. It was earlier today at 3 o'clock. He's representing himself, and throughout this process, the reason why there's been so much scuttlebutt is because they haven't been able to come to an agreement. He became eligible over 2 years ago to receive a contract extension, but he wants something that's fully guaranteed, and you can look to Deshaun Watson as already having a ripple effect as far as contracts go. That massive deal that he signed with the Cleveland Browns for all that guaranteed money, that is obviously playing into the minds of quarterbacks now signing their contract. Yeah, Deshaun Watson got that. But Lamar wanted a deal that is similar to that as far as the guaranteed part of it goes. So the Ravens use their non-exclusive tag. So that means that he can talk contract with other teams. And if he signs an offer sheet with, let's say, the Miami Dolphins, Baltimore then has the right to match that, or and match that would mean keeping him. Or if they decide not to match that, then they would get 2 first-round picks as compensation for losing Lamar Jackson. So he will end up making, on this non-exclusive tag, $32 million this season, which is just an insane amount of money, but it's obviously not as much as he feels like he's worth. And if he were to get about where he, wanted to be ballparked, it would be more like $45 million. So $13 million more dollars than he's expected to make.
Is it the top 5 average quarterback contracts or 10? Top 5.
Top
okay.
5.
All right.
Yeah.
So he would be looking at a top 5 average of 45. Instead, he'll play for 32. I know. We'd all be just fine making that amount of money, but it's not.
I'd have to have 45.
It's not part of the deal, and not going to count his money. But, Atlanta's another team that's been brought up as a possibility for him. Miami, obviously, being a Florida guy. But, what is y'all's thoughts on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens as the world turns?
I don't think he's going back there.
Okay.
I think the Ravens, I don't think he wants to right now. I think the Ravens are betting on the fact that nobody is going to give him the Deshaun Watson contract, and there are 31 owners enraged at the Haslams for giving Deshaun Watson that contract.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly, and I saw Jeff Schwartz, former Giants offensive lineman, say this today, that the Browns didn't do this on purpose. They're not that clever as an organization to have torpedoed the franchise quarterback of the other team in their division. But I do think that's going to be the result, because I think Lamar Jackson's mad now Lamar Jackson's been better than Deshaun Watson in almost every regard outside of, who's an actual better passer. But as far as wins and not getting in trouble and all these different things, you'd rather have Lamar Jackson than Deshaun Watson every single time. And here the Ravens, a really smart organization who doesn't really make mistakes, are now in this position where they have not been able to negotiate with him to their liking. Now, they really want him back, but clearly not enough. And he's not the exclusive rights free agent either, which means that he can go negotiate. So I think he's going to go and try to go somewhere else. And I think that a lot of these teams that are saying, we're not interested, are super interested.
No, you have to be. You have a good one. You don't want to lose him. Yes, the money's high. You're gonna, whoever you get that may be as good as him or better is going to cost you that much as well. 2 first-round picks are still possible. Like, you might screw them up. You may not. It may not work. I'll say this and I'll say it again. I don't know what the minimum starts might be. Maybe it's 100 games or 50 games. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Roger Staubach, and Lamar Jackson have the highest winning percentages, and I wish I could find the number of career games, because there's others in that mix if you get more and more games played. But when you have one, you keep them. Now, here's my biggest complaint about Lamar Jackson, and this is silly. Watching ESPN discuss him on all the various shows, if I'm at the gym in the morning, they use the same damn video over the conversations. How long has he been playing?
Well, long enough to
How many games has he played?
Long enough to where you can have 9 or 10.
Can you give us 8 or 9 new fresh touchdown clips or a couple of runs? But that's just off to the side.
Yeah, that's very much something to complain about. But you can always hit up Deontay. He works out there, and
I will tell
him to freshen up the video footage.
You're right.
But yeah, Lamar Jackson certainly played in enough games now at this point to have more than one clip. I had not noticed that, but I mentioned the Dolphins. He's a Florida guy. Falcons as well. But, there are already teams, including those two, that have gone on record to, I believe Jeff Darlington was one of the reporters that had it out there, that the Dolphins, he had the Dolphins part of it, that the Dolphins say they will not pursue Lamar Jackson. The Panthers have said they will not pursue Lamar Jackson. I believe the Falcons have said they will not pursue Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson is available to be pursued thanks to that decision by the Baltimore Ravens organization. So we will see where this ultimately takes us. But, either way, he's going to be making bukus of money. And you just wonder, what else could he possibly do other than, just march them onto a Super Bowl to get a contract. But you also look at it from the standpoint of a team that's $45 million a year, and maybe you feel like, hey, we win different ways than having one of the best quarterbacks. I don't know, though. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes here over the next few months.
Only Mahomes since 2017 has a better winning percentage.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones, signs a contract today. I don't know if you're going to get to that, but it does make the Ravens look like, okay, look, the Giants just went all out to make sure they didn't have to franchise Daniel Jones, and he just had his one good year. What is the holdup? I know the holdup is the money, but this should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, you would think so. And I guess it's just eye of the beholder as far as, how you value the quarterback position and what you feel like should be, the route to go. But, Daniel Jones, you mentioned him. That was the other big story coming out of today, or one of the other big stories coming out of the day. And these last 24 hours as the NFL offseason chugs along and we start to count down to the draft coming up next month. The Giants not having as hard of a decision to make, I guess, as they went ahead and struck a deal with Daniel Jones and also made a decision on Saquon Barkley as well. 4 years, $160 million, the new deal for the former Duke Blue Devil and Daniel Jones. Meanwhile, the non-exclusive franchise tag was placed on Saquon Barkley. So all of the things that I just mentioned with Lamar Jackson, as far as like, hey, you can talk and, there's an offer, you can match the offer. If not, that whole deal, that will apply to Saquon Barkley. He will make a little over $10 million next season under the non-exclusive franchise tender. Jones, his new contract, that 4 years, $160, $82 million guaranteed at signing as a part of that deal. GM Joe Schoen said that they hope to retain both players, and that was made possible, I guess, their conversations to go ahead and move forward with Jones, who will still be enjoying his 20s for the next 4 years. So still a young player, but now has got a fresh new deal, and it remains to be seen what will eventually happen with Saquon Barkley. But he has had the tag placed, the non-exclusive franchise tag, and Jones is locked down for the foreseeable future.
His cap hit is $18.5 million in 2023. That's a steal.
Yeah.
The franchise tag would have been $32.4. So eventually, like in year 3, 4, 5, it's going to be some crazy number. But then again, to me, it all just disappears. It's just monopoly money.
Also, he has essentially signed Dak Prescott's contract. It's almost the same framework completely. So Cowboys fans can shut up about Dak being overpaid.
Of course, that's not going to happen, right?
I mean, it's all relative. Dak didn't get the Mahomes deal. If Dak got the Mahomes deal, Dak's overpaid. Dak now has the Daniel Jones deal, so Dak is paid appropriately.
Yeah.
Maybe even underpaid.
That's more of a fair comparison. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you're right. He might be underpaid based on what we've seen so far. So Lamar Jackson, that still is got some more to play out. Daniel Jones, however, the Giants have made their commitment. Meanwhile, the other team in New York, the Jets, apparently continue to have conversations with Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Have been doing so this week and talking trade, trying to get the 4-time MVP to the Big Apple and away from his only spot so far in his pro career there in Green Bay. But Jets officials, including their owner and Woody Johnson, head coach Robert Saleh, general manager Joe Douglas, and also their OC Nathaniel Hackett, did fly out to California today and met with Rodgers in person. However, it does remain to be seen on whether or not they might make a move and whether or not Rodgers will agree to whatever that move might potentially be. As far as he goes, he's not made really any public statements about what he plans to do moving forward. There's still rumors about him retiring, which I don't buy those. I think he's still got some football left in him. There's obviously rumors he could always return to Green Bay, even though talk is that that's just too strained to possibly come back. And then there's obviously the trade route as well. So Aaron Rodgers and the Jets keep on talking, and no deal struck, but maybe there will be one soon, or maybe this is all just one big flirtation and everything remains as is. But the Jets are certainly swinging big and hoping they land a big fish in Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think my guess is that happens. I think that happens.
I think the issues of the contract, that's the biggest thing, is just trying to deal with the contract.
And I think they'll figure out a way to do that. That's probably, I don't know if that's good news or bad news for Zach Wilson. It's good news for the Jets if they can have them both, and maybe Zach Wilson can learn from Aaron Rodgers. As much of a space cadet as Rodgers is, I think he's a fairly good teammate now. I know Jermichael Finley might say differently. You interviewed Jermichael a couple years ago. Was that in Atlanta, Craig, where he was
I was in Atlanta.
Diboll, Texas.
Yeah, not like Jermichael Finley
Texas
could go
Longhorn.
to Aaron Rodgers, notafan.com. Like that would have been his website because he didn't care for him at all. But I think it's been different for a lot. Like Devonta Adams loves him. Jordan Love has nothing but good things to say about him. everybody has their own thing. So, but I do think it's going to happen because I think Aaron Rodgers wants to play somewhere else.
Yep. So that is like probably the biggest story I would think of the NFL offseason is wherever Aaron Rodgers will potentially land, even if it's just right back where he has been. But that continues on. So a lot of going on with quarterbacks. Daniel Jones inks a long-term, big-time deal. Lamar Jackson's in search of one, but is being tagged in the meantime. And Aaron Rodgers trade talks continue on.
Deontay Epps.
There he goes.
What's tell him to get on it, Smokey.
There we
go. Hope y'all have been good. Deontay's a brother of our family. He's at ESPN in Bristol. work with us. Great guy. Started out doing things with us here at 365 Sports. Deontay heard it. Thank you, Deontay. We love you, buddy. We miss you.
Yeah, appreciate you, Deontay, and just in time, man. So, yeah, get on that for us if you would, so Smokey won't see the same Lamar Jackson video over and over again. But yeah, love you, buddy, and hope you're doing well. Meanwhile, Amazon Prime has announced as, the streaming wars continue on, and certainly with streaming wars maybe turning more into battles and maybe we'll be skirmishes soon. I don't know. We still need to see this Pac-12 deal and what all that entails, and there's a lot of talk. It kind of depends on what source you're looking at as far as, the future of streaming and sports and all of that stuff. But Amazon Prime announcing that they will stream the Black Friday NFL game next season for free. The first time the league has scheduled a game on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. It'll be a 2 p.m. Central Time game on November the 24th, but neither team has been announced, and that will give Prime Video 16 regular season games for next year that will air from Week 2 through Week 17. They'll also have a preseason game, apparently, so only adding on rather than subtracting as they have that massive deal with the NFL. But, yeah, remains to be seen, and I like the Black Friday. Like, I feel like for college football, that's a nice little niche date. The day after Thanksgiving, turn around and watch some college football. I enjoyed that. I want to say the Big 12's got a couple of juicy matchups this year on Black Friday. Was it like TCU, Texas maybe, or something along those lines? I can't recall exactly. But, yeah, Amazon Prime will stream an NFL game for free on Black Friday. And let's see here. I thought I had one more note to get to. Did see confirmed, and I didn't know this when we were talking about UFC yesterday. I didn't realize they had already confirmed Stipe Miocic versus John Jones, but that is official. That was apparently made official shortly after the card wrapped on Saturday night that saw John Jones win the UFC Heavyweight Championship in his big return. So a fight the former champion in Stipe. I believe it's at UFC 290 coming up later this year. But I had no idea that had already been confirmed and locked down. But it makes a lot of sense, and that should spike the numbers, I would think.
Absolutely.
They'll get a lot of sales for Stipe versus Bones Jones.
I might watch that one.
That'll be a great heavyweight fight. And then meanwhile, final note here, we got spring training and baseball going on. You guys remember the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, I kind of do, and I'd forgotten about it.
The World Baseball Classic returns tonight at 10 p.m. Central Time on Fox Sports 1. Cuba and the Netherlands will kick off pool play in Group 1, and then they will have games. If you are a baseball fanatic, especially international baseball, if you like this format, the WBC's first game will be tonight at 10 p.m. Central on Fox Sports 1, so you'll have live sports late at night. But whether you go to sleep or whether you just get up super early, 5 a.m., Panama and Taipei, I believe that is, will be playing.
That's kind of like watching the British Open in the morning.
Yeah, on FS2. And then you'll have other matchups throughout the day as well. But Cuba and the Netherlands will open the World Baseball Classic later on tonight, and that is taking place in Taiwan. So therefore, you have the weird start times for the games. But this will be the sixth incarnation. The last time that the fifth. The last time they played was in 2017. Team USA took home the gold. Back in 2006, it got kicked off with Japan winning the gold. 2009, Japan won again. 2013, Dominican Republic. And then in 2017, the United States. And we'll see what happens this time around as the fifth World Baseball Classic gets underway tonight. And those are a few things off the radar.
Great stuff, Craig. Every one of those countries are known for their baseball. I living in Japan, I remember when we was in American high school, played a Japanese team, we had to learn quickly the fundamentals and how damn unbelievably diligent they were and how efficient they were. And we eventually beat the team that beat us badly the first time we ever played them. But, man, baseball in Japan is really, really good.
Yeah, and they will have some of these games in Japan. Taiwan is the host site as far as kicking it off tonight. They'll also have games in the U.S., and as a matter of fact, the championship game will be held in Miami. So it's not just being held. I want to clarify that, but that is where it will start tonight, and that's why you've got the weird start time.
Okay.
But, yeah, Japan, Taiwan, U.S. all acting as hosts. U.S. has been a host site for every single one of these. So, yeah, should be fun, some extra baseball.
Will be interesting if I wake up and I just turn on the TV and it's there. I'll probably watch a little bit. Sir blah, blah, blah. Aaron Rodgers came out of his quiet cave, saw his shadow, and guaranteed 6 more weeks of BS. Thanks for that, sir, blah, blah, blah. Coming up next, one of the great personalities in golf and sports history, 6-time major champion, Lee Trevino. His thoughts about the PGA Tour and some of the changes, his thoughts about LIV, his thoughts about life. Lee Trevino next on 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza with 5 locations in Waco, and at one point there were none. Bob Mock's been a part of the pizza business for a long, long time. He has run businesses. He was a delivery guy, and he kind of, in between all that, learned more and more about a franchise or owning or being a part of the pizza profession and business. And he does a great job with 5 locations, Marco's Pizza, in Belmead, in China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and also in Robinson. Bob Mock's a great dude. He also is very much involved as a volunteer and sometimes is watching or tickets or whatever it might be when it comes to Baylor Athletics as well. And he loves pizza. Obviously, everybody I know of loves some sort of pizza. Marco's Pizza, go online, marcos.com. You have all sorts of different codes for the best in whatever you want, including pepperoni magnifico. Whatever size you want, they have a code for you to deliver or for you to call in or order online and pick it up. And, of course, they deliver too. 5 locations in Waco. Bob Mock, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
During Ram Truck Month, get incredible deals on Ram trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco. Come see why Ram continues to win awards year after year. Browse online or come shop the greatest selection of new car and truck inventory in stock today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. But when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs. Knowing you, that's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson, investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
We will hear
David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Paul left for a second. I had to work on something, and it's Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. We'll hear from six-time major champion Lee Trevino here momentarily, and he will be a segment you're going to love. We've had Lee on early on when we started this show back in April of 2020 and a couple of different times, and his thoughts about the PGA Tour, some of the rules changes, some of the way they're setting up tournaments, also live, and he spent a couple of days at a fundraiser in honoring Medal of Honor recipients. So Lee Trevino will join us here very quickly here on 365 Sports. Again, Jack McKenzie in studio, Garrett Ross in studio, and we're now joined by Lee Trevino, six-time major champion and a great friend of the show. Lee, thanks for your time. What has it been like the last couple of days? Medal of Honor, recipients, fundraiser, golf, all of what you've done, the clinic with them.
Oh man, it was wonderful. We have a guy that's a trick shot artist named Dan Bieber, and he's an old ex-baseball player, and he does all these trick shots, and he puts these balls on these long tees, and he's got tees that are 2 foot long, 5 foot long, 6 foot long, and then he puts a drone out there and he hits them off this tee. And he tries to hit the drone that's moving around out there in the sky. But, I'm pretty good at that myself. And I've done a couple of shows with him, and he was amazed that I could hit the ball off those long tees and almost hit that drone myself. But I'll tell you, it was wonderful. Dave Stockton started this many moons ago. We did it at Riverside for a while, and then we did it at Reading. And then this particular year, it was much easier for me because I'm in Palm Springs and I'm at Bighorn and down there at the resort, another resort down the street here. We had 36 holes. We had over 200 players. We had 7 of the living, and actually we had 7 of the Medal of Honor recipients there, and we would. And we raised over $1 million one day. It was wonderful.
Lee, that didn't surprise me that you're in the middle of that. And I've seen you do a clinic at a Pro-Am in Tyler. I think it was either Willowbrook or Holly Tree Country Club, where you could hit balls and they would meet halfway, like 20, 30, 50 yards down, and they would hit each other. No,
I never. Now, Chi-Chi one time did that, and the balls collided. I never could do it. The reason I couldn't do it is I couldn't hook a ball that good. Chi-Chi could fade it and hook it and almost make them collide in the air. It was the most amazing thing you've ever seen.
Lee, what are your thoughts about the latest changes on the PGA Tour with some more no-cut tournaments, still 72 holes? The money, of course, is getting more and more. And your thoughts about what they're doing on the tour lately?
Well, I don't know where it's going. I was looking at I was looking at Monahan's doing his press conference this morning on the Golf Channel, and he kind of veered away from it. But you got to understand one thing, that the tour is a nonprofit, and we were the most for athletes that are top of their game. We're the less paid guys of anybody. Everybody else gets paid more. Basketball players get paid more. Baseball players get paid more. Football players get paid more. Golfers don't get paid that much. Now, see, everybody looks at, they're playing for $5 million, $10 million. Oh, yeah, we're playing for that. We don't have a guarantee. We're not getting paid to play. And if you really look at it, it's damn expensive to play the game of golf. It's not cheap. I mean, you got to have a caddy. You got to have you got to travel. You got to pay your hotel. You got to pay everything. Rent a car when you get there. You see, expense. Can you imagine the football players having to pay their own flights and their own and getting their uniforms clean and paying for their own food? Baseball players the same. Hell, they wouldn't play. Are you kidding me? I mean, for a kid to go out there today and say he qualifies for the PGA Tour, then he's going to have a heck of a lot of money just to play. Probably married, got a child, got a home. So he's got two homes now. He's going to have one on tour. He's going to have one there. I think what they've done is fantastic, and I'm glad that somebody thought of it because it's ridiculous. Now, I love the $500,000. If you get a card, they loan you $500,000, and then they take it. In other words, so at least you have some money to start with. So you don't need a sponsor now. In other words, you don't have to split 60-40 with somebody or 70-30. You're going to be able to do this on your own. And what happens is if you make a cut, in other words, you make money, you draw it. It comes out of that $500,000, so you have to pay it back. But again, if you play and don't make any cuts, you keep the $500. You don't have to pay it back, which I think is fantastic. They've done some good stuff. Good stuff. As far as the prize money is concerned, it should have been there a long time ago. That's here today. But taking care of the players is what you've got to do. It's damn expensive to play golf. It's not cheap. I'm telling you.
How much of this is in reaction to what Liv is doing or has done?
Well, I think it opened everybody's eyes. I mean, you have to understand, again, I'm not a mathematician, and I don't know anything about the laws and the tax laws and everything. I do know that if it's a nonprofit, that you got to get rid of the money at the end of the year, or you got to bonus it out. Now they're bonusing that. They wouldn't bonus it out to the poor guys that weren't making cuts. They were bonusing it out. They were bonusing everything out to themselves at Ponte Vedra. You see, because they must have been. Because all of a sudden now they found a hell of a lot of money. I mean, all of a sudden here we got hundreds of millions of dollars that we're giving away. Where did it come from? You understand? I mean, where did that money come from? So they must have had it there somewhere. So I think the ones that took the back seat to here are the employees at Ponte Vedra. I don't think their bonuses were nearly as big last year or going to be as big this year. I think they're starting to take care of the player the right way. As far as having the 80 players and exempt, no cut, I think it's fabulous. I think it is the right way to do it. And I'll tell you why. If your son was Rory McIlroy's, Rory's favorite player was Rory McIlroy, and your son is in high school, and he can't come after Thursday and Friday, and Rory misses the cut, your son's not going to be able to see him play. But if Rory's there, regardless if he's in last place, he's guaranteed to be there Saturday and Sunday because there's no cut. So I think marketing-wise, it's fabulous. It's fabulous for the golf fan, which thank God we have those people. And I think it's going to be great. And they're going to take care of they told me that there were 7 ways to qualify for that top 80 or top 70 or whatever they're going to have. I don't know what that criteria is, but at least now they're thinking about taking care of the guys. I like the way they're doing it, taking care of the guy at the bottom. You know, you don't need to take care of Tiger. Tiger's a billionaire. You don't need to take care of Rory. Rory's damn near a billionaire.
Yep.
So you know you got to take care of the guy at the bottom a little bit. If he misses a cut and he makes no cut, he loses his card. You know, he's got to have something. He got to get something. I mean, come on, this guy's worked hard to get there. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a real good thing. Yeah.
Do you or was there anybody in particular when the PGA Tour or European Tour started having players join Liv? Everyone kind of knew about Mickelson. We know about some of the other offers. Was there a player or two that surprised you the most if they went to live?
No, not really. Dustin Johnson, he went to live. He got offered a hell of a lot of money. You got to look at it a couple of ways. Dustin Johnson, he'll tell you he'll be the first to tell you he doesn't like to practice a lot and really work that hard. So he went over there. But, he got a tremendous amount of money. There's no way he's going to be able to make that kind of money for the next 15 years playing the regular tour. You can't blame the guys for doing that. You cannot blame them doing that. Some of the other guys that went over there, some of them are hurt. Bryson's been hurt, so he went over there. Kepka has been hurt, so he went over there. It looks like they're taking all the South American players because, as you well know, the tour in South America, the Latin tour is growing leaps and bounds. It's really growing down there a lot. So they took the kid from Chile, the two of them. They took Sebastian Munoz, which is Colombian. They took Carlos Ortiz from Mexico. They got Answer. My question is this. Is the only way that Liv would ever hurt the regular tour is if there's somehow they can entice the superstars that are coming out of college. Now, if they start getting if they start getting the NCAA champions and all these guys, then it's a different story entirely. They got Wolf, Oklahoma State, but Wolf's hurt. And then he's got more moves than Gaylord Perry in his swing. He has to practice hard. he has to practice hard, in other words, for him to stay consistent because of that swing. He goes way outside and reroutes it. So kind of like I did a little bit, but not quite as much. They're going back and forth. But if you really look at it right now, if you watch any live tournaments at all, if you watch CW the other day that they had it down in Mexico and you watch the tournament on the regular tour, there is no comparison. There is no comparison. Now, you can say what you want to. You can tell me I'm crazy or whatever, but I've watched both of them on the same day. And there's no comparison, pal. Believe me. The regular tour in the U.S. has got so much talent, it's pitiful. I'll tell you that. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Lee, when did you first pick up a golf club, and when did you first realize you're pretty damn good at it?
Well, I first picked it up, in other words, when I was probably 8 and 9 years old. I lived in that pasture out there in the middle of the field with my grandfather, no electricity, no plumbing, as you well know. And there was a golf course next door called Glen Lakes Country Club, which became DAC. And my uncle caddied there. And so I used to just kind of follow him around, and I got, found an old club and balls, and I was just trying to copy people's swing. I was emulating what they were doing. I had no clue what the hell they're doing. But I never played golf. I never played golf until I was 22 years old when I got out of the Marine Corps. I didn't go on the golf courses. I might have hit a ball in the field or whatever, out the back pasture or whatever. But as far as going on a golf course and stuff, no, we never did that. So I actually picked up a golf. I actually got serious about the game and started playing it when I was 22. By the time I was 27 and a half, I'd won the U.S. Open. Yeah. I don't, I tell people this, and as a matter of fact, I did a clinic yesterday, and I was demonstrating shots, and I'm going to be 84 this year. And I was hitting the ball just all over. Killing it. I was hitting the driver, and I was hitting everything, right where I wanted to hit it. And I was telling people, I said, listen, I don't know why. I said, I cannot tell you how I do this. I said, I tell you what I try to do, but I said, the good Lord just blessed me. The good Lord blessed me. And he gave me a tremendous amount of talent in this game, and why, I don't know. And it came easy to me. It's not hard. What I try to do, I don't work. I try to dissect it. I want to know why this ball's doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be a reason. It's got to be in the hand. It's never in the body that much. It's more or less in the hands. The hands are the steering wheel. However you put them on a golf club will actually believe it or not, influence which way the ball is going. The swing never changes. I try to tell people, I said, you walk or I said, you can walk 200 yards away from here, your wife will recognize you. I said, from your walk. I said, if you get on the other side of the wall and you speak, your wife knows that's you talking. You're not going to change it. I said, in a golf swing, you own it. You own that golf swing. People go through a whole lifetime trying to find the right golf swing. It has nothing to do with the golf swing. Nobody swings alike. I mean, some of us are 5'5", 5'7", 6'1", 6'6". We all swing different. But if you do the right thing with the steering wheel, the ball can do the same thing with everybody.
Did anyone? Did anyone? Well, in your hands, obviously, the way you could maneuver the ball and work it was incredible. Still is. Did anyone ever approach you and try to change your swing?
Yeah, they try to change my grip. I had a real strong grip, Texas grip, Ben Hogan grip in the beginning. And then when Harvard Pickard, you remember, changed his hands in 1942 and told him, listen, you need to get the right hand on top more. You need to see no knuckles on the left, one knuckle on the right, instead of two knuckles on the left and no knuckles on the right. You understand? And all Texas people, because of the wind blowing, trying to keep the ball down, tend to put their hands on the golf club very strong. They put the left hand over where you can see two knuckles on the left hand, which is wrong. And then they'll put the right hand underneath where you can't see any knuckles. Well, you have to understand. You have to go back in the book and look. When you put a golf club down and you see the face of the club going at a 90-degree angle to face the target, if you put your left hand on the club, you'll notice that the left hand is also square with the face of the club going 90 degrees to target. When you put your right hand on the golf club, you'll notice that the palm of your right hand is also going towards the back of the left hand and is lined up with the face of the club that's on the ground. So technically speaking, you have three club faces, and you have to aim them all in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have the golf club face going towards the target, and then all of a sudden your right hand so strong that it's going 35 degrees up in the sky, because that particular club face is not square with the club face that's going to hit the ball. So now what you got to do is maneuver somehow. You got to make some kind of stupid move to try to keep that club down on the ground square to target, and generally it's holding on for dear life. No rotation, no release. If you release it, you hit your left ankle with the ball. So you'll go hook it. You see. So I dissect this whole game. I could set you down for hours and tell you and tell you how you do this and what happens to the ball. Then by me showing you that, I don't have to be there to give you a lesson, because the ball will tell you what you're doing with your hand. Because wherever the ball is going, if it's going to the right, going to the left, it's going high, going low, you're hitting it fast, it's all where the hands are positioned. And then what it does is a red light goes on. Once I've taught you this, the red light goes on, and you know exactly what you're doing. I was giving a lesson to a lady in Kahanaiki at the Big Island of Hawaii, and all these ladies loved for me to give them lessons on the back of the tee, so I had about 6 of them there. And this one lady says to me, "Can you look at me?" I said, "Sure." So she swings at the ball, and she hits a terrible shot, and she looked at me. She says, "You know what I did? I know exactly what I did." I said, "Well, then why in the hell am I standing here?" I said, "If you know what the hell you did, then why are you asking me to help you? Why don't you correct it?" You see, that's the one thing you don't do. If you're chopping that ball all over the place, don't tell me you know what the hell you did.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't, because you look silly doing that. You know, no, you don't. If you'd have known what the hell you were doing, if you knew that, oh, I know what I did, then why did you do it?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But it's I can sit you down. You know, I can sit down in a room and talk about this game for hours, and it makes it's all logic. It's all it is. It's all logic. It makes sense. The problem with this golf game is we're all different sizes, we're different weights. In other words, some arms are short, some arms are longer than others. Fingers, hands, some are large, some are small. So you have to go. The one big stat that we've made in golf is that they've been able to get enough equipment to where you can go and get fitted. And they've got all these places around that are fitted. You can get fitted, in other words, for the right shaft, giving you the right loft, ball speed, all this stuff. When you buy a set of golf clubs, remember one thing. Those golf clubs are that's mass production. So that golf club might not be right for you, but it might be okay for your son or your dad or whomever because of the shaft. And golf clubs are made like automobiles. They're all made the same. And if you want to go faster, you're going to have it bored out. You got to get bigger tires. You got to get a better transmission. And it's the same thing with a golf club. It depends on how you swing. You may need more loft. You may need less loft. Everything, But the machines, they've got machines now that they can put you on and you monitor it. They can tell you if you're steep. When my son came to me and he said to me, he said, Dad, he said, you know what? He said, I got on that machine down there. And he said, I'm +3 taking it away. He said, but I'm -1 hitting it. And I said, yeah, what the hell are you talking about? I said, now, what are you talking about? He said, well, when I'm taking the club away, he said, I'm too steep, which makes me come in too shallow and makes me come in too steep to the ball. So instead of going up, hitting the driver, you're going to about a +3. In other words, what you're doing is adding loft. McElroy hits it 9 miles. He's almost +5 when he hits it. In other words, the club's going up, opening. Mm-hmm. When he hits it, he's going on the way up when he catches the ball. So I didn't know that. But they can take you and they can monitor you. But the sweet thing about it is the shaft. I don't care what shaft you're playing in an iron. It doesn't make that much difference. I mean, come on. The 9-9 is 36 inches long, and then they're half-inch increments up to the other. So it really doesn't make any difference too much about what the shaft. Oh, it's stiff. Oh, it's 80 grams. Oh, 130. The hell with that. The important thing is the driver shaft. The driver shaft has to be right. And the only way you can do that is you've got to go get tested to get the right driver shaft. Everybody that I know is using a stiff shaft. It might not be the right shaft. You should probably be using maybe a regular, maybe 50 grams instead of 80. It all makes a big difference. Lee, it's a big thing, this golf. It's a big thing. This year we'll do over $2 billion in this game. I mean, it's really grown. It's really grown. Yeah.
In your opinion, was there ever, and you played during an era, obviously Nicklaus and Player and Palmer and Weiskopf and many others, was there anyone that when you were in the final round or in the final group that you would rather not have played with to win, whether a regular tournament or a major championship? Was there anyone that you just would rather not have been in a group with?
No, we never. We were the type of guys that we were loners. We were friends at the golf course, but we didn't have dinner together or congregated together any other time. We were just great friends. We respected each other's talents, and when we played, we tried to beat the hell out of each other.
Yep.
And if we didn't, we'd shake their hand and say, man, okay, maybe next time. Congratulations, you played great. Love you, man. Love you. Talk to you later. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't see the guy until next week. I mean, that's just the way it was. No, we didn't pay attention to anybody else. No, never did. Of all the years that I played golf on tour, I never went out to dinner with Jack Nicklaus. I never went out to dinner with Arnold Palmer. J.C. Snead and I'd go to Mexican restaurants and eat. I'd have to order for him because he's from Virginia. He had no clue. He had no clue what a tortilla was or nothing, I did get him to eat a jalapeno one time, and he took off for the bathroom to put some water in his mouth.
He needed milk.
I told him it was a pickle.
Yeah.
I told him it was a pickle. No, I told him that the burn from the jalapeno would go away if he drank a cup of hot coffee.
Oh, my God.
Let me tell you, he wanted to call the fire department.
When you saw Tiger for the first time in person, did you realize he would be what everyone thought he might be?
Oh, yeah. I've known Tiger since he was 8. I knew him since he was 8 years old. I used to see him every year. Every year I gave him, I don't know how many trophies. I'd give him maybe 6 or 7 trophies I'd give him. Because we sponsored junior golf in Orange County out of L.A. And I was with Toyota at the time. And we sponsored the junior program. So every year we would give trophies away for the kid that won the most tournaments. I would give a trophy away for, the kid that made the most birdies. And it was always Tiger. And, Tiger would bring his truck, put all his trophies in, and go home. And then when he was 12 years old, we got in a driving contest. And I'm not saying he beat me, but I'm not saying I beat him. I told him it's a tie. I was on the senior tour, and he was, I think, 12 years old playing, and everybody was bragging about how far he could hit it. I said, well, get him on the tee. And I'll tell you, he could bust it, boy. He could really hit it. When he was 12 years old, I mean, he looked like he could have played the PGA Tour then. Yeah. No question.
How cool is it while you play with your son in that tournament that has the father-son, which is incredible? How cool is it to see Charlie and Tiger? And what do you see from Charlie? I know everyone's going to have crazy expectations. I don't know if that, but just yeah.
It'll be tough with him. The tough thing with him will not be the golf. He is absolutely hands-on. He's got a tattoo on his forehead, and it says "Can't miss." I mean, this guy can really play. He can really play. When I saw him when he was 12 years old hit a 3-wood, I mean, I hit a driver, 4 hybrid to the 3rd hole, and I knocked it over the green. I was going right at the flag. It's a par 5. He is 12 years old, and he was small for 12. In other words, wasn't tall. And he hit driver, 3-wood between the bunkers and made a 35-footer for eagle. Yeah, wow. I made birdie. And he made eagle. Yeah, the mannerisms that he has. He knows every shot in the book when he was 12 years old. Yeah. He could execute every shot I could when he was 12 years old. No question about it.
Last question for you.
Unbelievable.
The Players' Championship is in Ponte Vedra, the Sawgrass, the TPC this week. You won that thing. You played that. You loved that course. You played it well. And I know it's changed over the years. How hard of a course is that?
Well, the first year we played there, and the first round was blowing a little hard. On the 17th hole, you can look it up, there were 82 balls hitting the water that one day. Just one day. The green, couldn't hold the green. I remember Phil Rogers, God bless his soul, he's deceased now, sitting in the barber's chair. They have a barber's chair in the locker room. And I remember him sitting in the barber's chair, and every time we'd walk into the locker room, he would say, how many balls did you hit in the water on 17? And it said, I didn't hit any because I was lucky enough I put it in the bunker in the front. Because nobody could hold that green. Yeah, you couldn't hold the green. You hit the ball, and the ball would hit on the green, and it would roll off the back in the water. Yeah. There were 80 or 82 balls hitting the water that one day. That one day.
That's crazy. It's nuts. Lee, first of all, our audience, we have a chat room, and everybody just thanks you for being a part of our show. We thank you, first of all, for what you're doing to give back to the Medal of Honor recipients and what that means. I mean, everybody just says thank you, and we appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact you answer my call about twice a year when I call you.
I love you, man. I love you. And listen, the next time you want to talk to me, just tell the guy in the chat room they can take a break and go to lunch. Because I'll talk for the next hour, okay?
Oh no, we might do that before the Masters, or at some point down the road.
You got my number. You got my number, my man.
Hey, do you want to give out? Do you still have the link for your merchandise?
I've got it. It's supermixgolf.com.
Yep.
The shirts, the Bermuda shirts, all the stuff will be. We'll start about April 1, folks. It's all coming April 1. All the clothes and everything. So. Yep.
You got it.
Got it all coming.
Thank you, Lee. Great friend.
Love you, man.
Thank you, buddy. Love
you
too.
All right, buddy.
Lee
Bye.
Trevino. Lee Trevino. The J.C. Sneed story about the jalapeno, and and a lot of you, and Kim Coulter said, anyone notice we all stopped typing and just listened? And we could, and I know we have another guest to get to, but Lee would have stayed with us for another hour or two, and we'll get him on again before one of the big majors this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's great stuff right there, and that's not every day you just talk to a legend like that in his particular sport and get that amount of time with him. So to hear him riff on a variety of different topics was cool, and he's always has been an entertaining personality, to be sure. And look, that's why I stayed out of the way. Let you guys talk golf. I'm not the golf guy. I know Paul, if he was here, would have been right in there, right there throwing some things out as well. But I kind of knew my place, and I'm glad that I did that because I think you two had a great rapport, and that was awesome.
Well, it's like if we got somebody on that in your specialty is everything, but if it would have been like wrestling or UFC or whatever it might be, or UCF, UFC, I keep forgetting that. We had that conversation. Yeah, you just know. And I could have asked him 50 more questions,
Sure.
and thanks for a couple of the questions that we were able to get to him with Lee Trevino, and thanks for his time. That was an honor, and not a surprise that he's a part of with the Medal of Honor recipients and fundraiser in California. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, is next on 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. This is simple. They have been in business since 1943. They're in a new location that they moved in back at the end of last year, which is on the Loop 340 in Waco on the eastern side of I-35. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger, and they've always been amazing. Their customer service is elite. The reviews are amazing, and their product has been fantastic because they've been in business since 1943. And now they have even more of what you go there for, which is steel, pipe, metal, all of that. And, of course, they're bigger, so they have more of the product, bigger so they can distribute it to you faster, and also have different lengths of whatever product you're looking for so you can get it right there at their brand-new location. 2,500 square foot showroom, so many new different pieces, gadgets, product, what you need. And, my goodness, they've been in business since 1943, pioneerboys.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
We're now joined by Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, David Smoak here. And John, sorry we got you on a little bit later than normal. Lee Trevino was on with us to start the 5 o'clock hour. And I think I asked like 3 questions and just let Lee just go.
I'm surprised you had to answer any question. I remember when he first got really good on the PGA Tour, and I was working at the Tribune Herald while I was going to Baylor, and I don't remember 73, 4, or 5, but he came to town, and he was a hoot. You know, besides being a great golfer, he was a great personality. There haven't been many personalities at golf who could top Lee Trevino.
Yeah, he is special, no question about it.
Well, John, a newsworthy day in the NFL. Some decisions being made on franchise tags and a couple of quarterbacks. I guess start with the deal that has happened with the New York Giants as they agree to terms with Daniel Jones on a new contract and also choose to non-exclusive franchise tag Saquon Barkley, but under the perception that they will eventually sign him to a new deal as well. But what are your thoughts on the Giants and Daniel Jones making it long-term?
Well, first of all, Craig, Jones has had one good year, not a great year, a good year. And if you say, what did Daniel Jones do best for the Giants last season when they made a miraculous turnaround under Brian Daboll in his first season, you say he didn't turn the ball over. And that's important, and that's great, but they need to get him some weapons at wide receiver. And Saquon Barkley, he's been in the league 5 years. His best season was last season and the last year of his contract. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option on either one of those guys. And usually you don't pick that 5th-year option up, that guy's gone because he's insulted. So they gave Jones $40 million a year, after one good season, and he's going to be able to sign more contracts if he's good. And Saquon Barkley, I don't see anybody trying to sign a running back to a long-term deal going into his 6th season. And but I expect both of them to be back, and everybody is going crazy because there's not a run on Lamar Jackson. And the reason there's not, people don't want to give a guaranteed contract like Cleveland gave to Deshaun Watson, because say you give a guaranteed contract and the Ravens match it, and then you set a precedent with your players, and they're like, well, you were going to give him one. Why are you not giving me one? It can create some bad blood. And I know it's sacrilegious to point out that Lamar Jackson's been hurt a lot the last 2 years, and he's won one playoff game. People get so mad when you say that, but those are facts. And if they take 2 ones and say some team does give him 230 or more million guaranteed, which I just don't see it. But if they do, and agents are pushing for it, the union's pushing for it, the union is claiming collusion, because everybody's trying to stay away from guaranteed contracts. And I I'd be surprised if he gets one. And if he gets one that the Ravens think is reasonable, then they'll just keep him, sign him to that contract, and say thank you to that team because they got something done they were unable to do. And I do believe he needs an agent. I've said that all along. He's got the union helping him. He's got a couple of financial guys. But that's not the same as having a legitimate agent negotiating for your future.
Yeah, how many other players, and you could help jog my memory, how many other players have done this without an agent?
When Laramie Tunsil signed his extension with the Texans, it made him the highest paid lineman in history. He didn't have an agent. And everybody's like, wow, Laramie's negotiated that deal. No. He had 3 financial advisors. He paid them by the hour, not a percentage of his contract. Now he's trying to get another extension. I'm assuming he'll use them again. And the union will help. You know, the union has people there that can help you. And it's not everybody does that. You know, there's some that do, but not many. Because you're talking about money that is so can take care of you for life, your kids for life, their kids for life. So you need expertise. You wouldn't try to do your taxes by yourself. You don't make investments without somebody helping you. So why would you negotiate a $100 million contract, or in Lamar Jackson's place, over $200 million contract without help?
John, other quarterback dominoes falling. Geno Smith re-signing with Seattle, a brand new big deal for him. I don't know. I can't dive as deep in the memory banks as you can, but you know, for a sport in an era that we live in now where everything's just kind of expected right away and we don't have a whole lot of patience. I mean, if you look at Geno Smith's career from when it started all the way till almost 10 years later to where he is now fresh off this career year, do you have anything that's comparable to that?
Boy, I was thinking about Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon was 37 years old when he went to the Raiders, was voted MVP, and they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Buccaneers. It's rare that a guy can do that. Now, Geno Smith's always been a good guy. He's always been a backup. When Pete Carroll decided to cast his lot with him and trade Russell Wilson, I thought Pete Carroll was nuts. And he saw something in him, and he rewarded him. Now, do they think he's going to be there for the next 5 years? Who knows? There's still teams with veteran quarterbacks who might draft one. I think there's going to be 5 go in the first round, including Tennessee's Hendon Hooker, who's coming off ACL surgery, and he's 25 years old. But if he hadn't been hurt, people would be talking about him right up there with the others. And so just because Seattle has the 5th overall pick, and they proved they'll take anybody no matter what their baggage is. And if Jalen Carter were to drop to them, I could see them taking him at 5.
Your thoughts about Derek Carr to New Orleans?
Good for Derek Carr. A lot of people are critical of him, saying he could have got more money. If he's happy, and then what does it matter? He's made a lot of money. If he wanted to go there, and he's getting $100 million guaranteed, what are people complaining about? You know, he automatically makes them the favorite in the NFC South until we see where the other dominoes fall. But I'm happy for him. And it was so smart of him to utilize that no trade clause because he knew he was going to make more in a multi-year deal than he was going to make in his $40 million base salary with the Raiders.
So, John, you just mentioned there 5 quarterbacks potentially going to the first round. So that'd be Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson, and Hooker, right?
Right.
What was that the big takeaway for you from the combine? Was just the speculation about the quarterbacks? I know there's a lot of like Anthony Richardson buzz. What stood out to you, I guess, apart from that, or was that kind of your main takeaway from last week?
Greg, I'm guessing that people that were ooh and eyeing over Anthony Richardson hadn't paid any attention to him because everybody knew he had great size, great arm, great mobility, and was a great athlete. So what he did didn't surprise me at all. I do weekly shows in Nashville and Knoxville, and they watched Richardson play this year, and they said, hey, you've got to pump the brakes on this guy. All NFL people will tell you that because he's inexperienced and he's not accurate. That you can get the experience, but man, you better have somebody who can coach him, a system that fits his talent, and an owner who's patient and doesn't fire everybody after 2 years, I think the two best places for him are the Raiders with Josh McDaniels, former offensive coordinator. He's got 4 years left on his contract. And Frank Reich going into first year of a 5-year contract with the Panthers, another former offensive coordinator. I think Anthony Richardson, or really any quarterback, would be lucky to be able to be developed by those guys, and especially a rookie, not a veteran like, say, Derek Carr, who had played one way his entire career, and then Josh McDaniels wanted to change him, and it backfired. He didn't play well. Now he's happy, and he's going back. He's going to New Orleans, be reunited with Dennis Allen, who was the defensive coordinator with the Raiders, and he's happy. And the Raiders now, they're in a position they got to re-sign Jarrett Stidham or sign Jimmy Garoppolo or both, or do everything they can to get one of those other prospects with the 7th overall pick.
John, I know you had a piece on GallerySports.com and one of various other pieces, but about Bijan. And I know that there's that kind of theme right now about running backs and taking them high, but is he a guy that could potentially break the mold, or do you still see him being a guy that, no matter how unanimous it is of ungodly talent that he is, that's just a spot where the guys aren't going that high anymore?
He's the only high pick who has no blemishes, not even a pimple, because I stood close enough to see. And he was listed at 6'2", 222 at UT. He's 5'11" and 215. He ran a 4.46. We all know he's a great receiver. He's tough. He's a great guy, great character. In the old days, he'd gone in the top 5. He has top 5 ability. You know, a lot of the guys ahead of him have issues, have questions, like Jalen Carter's character. Yeah. Even Will Anderson Jr. is light in the butt for a guy that's going to be rushing the quarterback all the time. All the quarterbacks have issues, but there's no issue with Bijan Robinson. I think Philadelphia's got Miles Sanders, a veteran back who rushed for more than 1,300 yards, and they love to rush the ball. I'm going to, when I start doing mock drafts this week, I'm going to have him going to Philadelphia, but he is certainly worthy of going higher.
What was that Jalen Carter buzz like at the Combine whenever that story came down?
I'll tell you, Craig, he was supposed to speak at 10:30 in the area where the podiums are lined up. And people got in there early because they knew there was going to be a big crowd. The guy that works with me at Gallery Sports, shoots videos, Christian Lewis, he got there 45 minutes early so he could be right in front of the podium and shoot it. I'm standing in the back about 20 minutes before he's supposed to start, and I get a text from Shireen Williams, my good friend. You guys know her very well.
Yep.
Saying, have you seen the Jalen Carter story? So I immediately Google it and see the story in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And I go up to Christian. I fight my way in there and say, he ain't coming. And everybody's, what? I said, look at your phones. And then everybody did. And no, people still wouldn't leave. They were hoping he would come out. Gradually, they moved away. And whoever the next guy was that came up there, everybody just left him when he walked up to the podium. I felt terrible for him. But Carter came back after he had the arrest warrant out for him. And this story could be very serious if his racing contributed to the wreck that killed 2 people. And he'll have the best attorney that money can buy. He's got a great agent, Drew Rosenhaus, and he's a great talent. So I can see the Bears, and this is something nobody's considering. Bears have the first overall pick. They think if they trade down with Indianapolis to 4, they can get Carter and they can get Will Anderson. They know at 3, Arizona's going to take one of them. Well, if they don't think Carter is worth that high pick anymore because of the character issues, they better stay at 1 and take Will Anderson, not try to get too cute, unless they like somebody else, like, say, Tyree Wilson from Tech. But you can't get too cute when you're trying to get the maximum out of trades. And the Carter thing, he'll still get drafted. We've seen guys, Laramie Tunsil with the bong, smoking a bong with a gas mask. Story in the New York Times, Warren Sapp did cocaine. There's been all kinds of things through the years that dropped guys down. I remember one year, a player had a wreck the night before, and his agent didn't tell anybody. Now, he should have let the NFL know my client had a wreck. He's hurt. We don't know the extent. So somebody drafted him, and then they found out he had a wreck. You talk about bad because he's hurt. I don't think that guy ever did anything, but they're lucky that this happened with Carter now instead of a couple of days before the draft. There's going to be a whole lot of investigating going on by NFL teams who have former FBI agents, CIA, all these people on their staff to investigate. And it's amazing they do that, and they still make so many mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes those NFL guys who go investigate seem like they get the information sometimes even deeper than law enforcement. It's like they know what they're doing. John, man, we appreciate you. Thanks for being patient with us today. Astros, we're not anywhere near the start of the season, but off kind of just what's been the reaction of the new pitch clock and the timer and all that? What's been the reaction from the Astros' point of view?
There have been some violations, as everybody knew there would. There's going to be some early in the regular season. Right now, players have left their teams to go to the World Baseball Classic. I think the Astros have 13 players in that. And so that's, I'm not sure if it started today or tomorrow, but it's coming up pretty soon.
Tonight,
it's all tonight, going to be all over TV. And they've got a bunch of players on a bunch of different teams like the U.S., Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Mexico. And so I didn't watch it the last time, but I'm going to this time because there was such buzz about it when I was at spring training among the players.
Yeah, John, because of the way it's spread out all over, the actual first game is going to be tonight at 10 o'clock. And then they'll have games at like 7 in the morning and all day long. So, yeah, if you're a baseball fan, it's going to be a real treat just seeing baseball all over the place. But, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Let
me tell you guys one more thing before you go. Sick 'em Bears. I'm glad they're playing Iowa State again after that putrid performance.
I think
they're going to whip. They're going to whip up on Iowa State.
You might be the only one after they've gotten thumped by them twice. John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
There you go, John McClain, GallerySports.com, 610 in Houston, and on numerous radio stations around the country. We're one of them and have been blessed to have him on for the longest of time that I could ever remember. So there's John McClain, of the Hall of Fame columnist as well. All right, no top five today. Paul had to leave everything's fine with him, but had to leave a little bit early. Garrett, great job today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jack McKenzie, appreciate you hanging around, and glad we got everything worked out after that little blurb, whatever it was, with a little technical issue. One good news is that we are changing things up here over the next, Jack, couple of months with how we put what we do out that will be absolutely elite, and we're looking forward to that, and Paul had a lot to do with that. For everyone, our sponsors, for those of you in the chat room, I answered questions as well today on the text line. I hope it got to all of them. Thank you. Thanks to Lee Trevino, especially for his appearance with us today on 365 Sports. All right, another day tomorrow. Craig Smoak. Thank you, Craig. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Don't forget tonight, 10:30 on the CW Sports Tonight. Good night, 365 Sports.